Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners' 11th Budget Work Session. Audience members, I want to start by asking you to please silence your electronic devices. For those presenting today, please turn your mic on when you've been speaking so the green light is showing, and off when you've completed your remarks so the red light is showing. And for all presenters, please state your name for the record or speak before speaking or responding to questions. So our first work session this afternoon is on the Department of County Human Services, and we have some of the leadership team with us today. So Mohammed, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and County Commissioners. For the record, my name is Mohammed Bader. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the Director of the Department of County Human Services. DCHS provides an array of social services to individuals at every stage in life, ensuring that people are safe and living independently in places of their choice. You'll be hearing more in a few minutes from my colleagues. I'm proud to have with me today my DCHS leadership team, who you'll see all through this session today. I really want to take a time to thank the leadership team, and I want to thank my Deputy Director, Rachel Pearl, and our Budget Director, Robert Stoll, for being so diligent and making sure we produce a balanced budget for this year. I also want to thank all of our staff, the more than close to 1,000 staff, and the people in the community we serve, the community-based organizations, the providers we work with. DCHS helps people at every stage in life, and again, I'm thankful for the almost 1,000 staff who are eager to help people live independently with dignity and respect. And I say this to all of our staff because I know they are listening, that we value you. Doesn't matter what kind of position you do and how you work for us. We know that you matter, and we also know that the people in the public also matter. With that, I am going to have you go to the second slide, just talk a little bit about the agenda we have for us today. So next slide. Just to remind you, no, I think before that, just the agenda quickly. I'll talk about the fact we have 2 sessions today here for you, just to kind of remind you. We have about 90 minutes, and we will talk about DCHS in general as a whole. That will include ADVSD, IDD, administration, and youth and family services. Then we'll break, and we'll have another session to talk about preschool for all. So,
I mean, today or at a different?
Today.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just want to set the expectation from the board. We may not get through all of the content with DCHS today. So, because sometimes this one tends to run long if there are a lot of questions. So if we don't, we will definitely make sure we're finding time to bring them back. Well, I'm just going to leave like it may be a possibility. Yes. So just don't worry about it. We'll make sure everybody gets the information.
Yeah, we timed ourselves, so we hope that we will be at a 60 minutes exactly, and then leave 30 minutes for questions and answers. We know that you may have some questions in between, and so we'll unfortunately have to minus that of the 30 minutes question and answer time that you have, unless the chair or you want us to come back or spend more time, but hopefully we'll be very diligent with our time. The one thing I wanted to start with is this slide and talk a little bit about the fact that in DCHS, we help everybody at every stage in life. This is a department that helps people from birth to the end of life. And as you can see in this continuum of care, we provide services to individuals, like in an example in IDDSD, who are children who might need either medical assistance or help or have any type of developmental disabilities. They need support services. We help families. And at the end of life, we go as extreme as providing services for people, and which I call like a most restrictive. So we have the least restrictive, which is less costly, by starting with for example, the Aging and Disability Resource Connection, which is our helpline. We provide services and support to individuals in the community, and towards the end of life, guardianship and conservatorship. The one thing I wanted to start with also here is just to talk about the fact that most people who are in their 40s, which we refer to as the sandwich generation, like if you are in that age, it's likely that you most likely have a parent and also a child that is going to school, maybe needing preschool, or a mom or a dad who need some sort of support. And that's the case very often. I know it was the case for me and others. I had two parents who aged. They were public school teachers. They were excellent, wonderful people. And then all of a sudden, my dad became very ill and started to have dementia. And so going through the process of placing him in a foster home, Multnomah County here, as you can see, Stephen Asher, he's our program director of the adult care home program. We have a stellar adult care home programs that provide support for older adults to live independently in a home-like environment. I know that for me and for others, that provided a lot of support for us, so we did not have to leave work and stay home, which actually I remember having to do that and go and sleep with my dad. On purpose, I'm not bringing like specific case for confidentiality with others, so I can talk about my own, where we all as siblings had to spend a lot of time just kind of divvying chores. But luckily and my dad lived in a different county, but in Multnomah County, we do have that availability to provide home care workers or personal support workers if people qualify, or if needed, we can help them with private pay type of situations. And as you are well aware of preschool, for example, and how we support individuals and who are kids who are 3 to 4-year-old by getting preschool, you'll be hearing about that later. But just in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that we touch every individual's life, whether you're a kid or older adult. And finally, I want to end with a few quotes that we received from the people we serve. This is what energizes me, really. It makes me come to work. This is about my 30th year, as I told to many of you. And information like this, for example, we helped an individual through who came to Gateway Center, for example. And this person says, I feel I got more valid information and help from you than I had gotten in several weeks from other sources. In a life or death situation, valid information and help is paramount. Got another quote here from an elderly gentleman whom we placed and helped them. He says, I'm so grateful for being here and having been on the other side in customer service. They give me all the possible information. So that's some example of what we provide. Last, we believe we went with the CEO, and there was a very touching case where in intellectual and developmental disabilities, we went and met with this client that had her mom, her provider, and she was so ecstatic about working at this particular restaurant. It was really empowering to see the mom who was feeling like big sigh of relief. She's worried about her daughter, where would she live? She needed a lot of support. And we were able, through the help of Alexa's team, to provide her with a place to live. She chose that place. And just let me remind you that in our system, choice is a big thing. You know, nothing about us without us is the motto that our clients use, and they really want to be in a place of their choosing. So this person looked at so many different places. Our case management was able to take her to places, to look at places. Mom was satisfied and happy with that outcome. And the client was happy with her work, but yet she was also demanding to have a better job. And so her case manager was going to try and give her, other chances to look at more jobs. So next slide, please. Just want to make sure I'm just going to now turn it to Ray, who's representing our budget advisory group, to talk to us. So.
Thank you. Ray Anderson, he, him pronouns. And as Mohammed says, I'm here today representing the DCHS CBAC. First of all, I'd just like to thank the commissioners for giving us this opportunity to provide input. As you can see from the slide, there are 5 members currently on the CBAC. That's unfortunately a little short of the 7 members required by charter, but we hope to correct that through an amped-up recruitment process this summer. The good news is that we're all returning members, so this is at least our second cycle through. The committee met monthly through the year, and I'd just like to compliment the staff for a good job they've done educating us and keeping us informed about department programs and services. Next slide. So despite our experience, with a couple of budget cycles here, I think the committee generally found this to be a difficult budget year, not only because of the reductions, of course, but also because the rubber really meets the road when you get the department's, first released budget and you see the extent of the reductions, and then you have 4 weeks to review that very large and complex budget and put together some recommendations. So that was challenging, I think. We appreciated the opportunity to provide input earlier in the budget cycle, however, so that was the good part of that. The bulk of our feedback came from a very thoughtful 2-hour face-to-face with department staff in early March. And because time was short, we really focused on the reduction packages and walked through those. And as we did so, I think we had 3 priorities in mind. To the extent possible in this environment, try to preserve services as much as possible for the most vulnerable populations, for marginalized communities, and for program services that aren't provided elsewhere. I would say that the most common question as we walked through those reduction packages was, okay, so 200 families used this services last year. If the service goes away, what's the fallback? What are they to do? Is there someplace else they can get that service? Is there someplace they can, get some partial replacement for that service? As you might guess, the answer to that question wasn't always pretty, and these were some very difficult decisions. But in the end, we concurred that the department had done a good job of balancing priorities to try to maintain services to those vulnerable populations and marginalized communities. We did have some concerns, and these concerns aren't necessarily new to this year. They're concerns that I think we've been sort of working with over at least the couple of years that I've been on the committee. First of all, big problems oftentimes require consistent and reliable funding. So especially when you get into a situation like this year, you want to try to avoid, to the extent possible, flip-flopping between, reducing services, then increasing them the next year, and one-time funding. And some of these things really require consistent investment in order to build that and maintain that infrastructure. And so that was one of our primary concerns. Second was to keep partnering with the community to avoid service gaps. The department does this really well right now. They partner with a lot of nonprofits and other organizations in the area. And in a time when resources are so short or so tight, it's really important, we think, to continue that work and try to even take it further and find other opportunities to partner with those agencies. And finally, supporting a continued emphasis on funding upstream solutions to get at the root cause of problems. I think the corollary to that is we really struggle a little bit with metrics. All of the program offers have metrics associated with them. And oftentimes those metrics are, this program served 100 families last year. And that leaves us as a committee questioning, but what was the outcome of that for those 100 families? Was it a long-term positive effect, or was it a short-term patch? Now, those sorts of metrics, I think, are much harder to come by and much more difficult to measure. And so it's something that I think we'd like to continue to work with the department on over time to try to get those better metrics beyond just the number of clients served. Again, this was a challenging year for the committee, I think, but after our review, we concluded that the department had done an admirable job of trying to balance priorities and preserve those most important services for the most vulnerable populations. So with that, I think my time is up, and
Thank
I'll
you, Ray.
just thank you again for the opportunity to provide input.
Yeah, thank you, Ray. And we're really blessed in DCHS that we have this amazing CBAC, and they are really vocal with us. I mean, they tell us where we should focus and what to do. They gave actually great feedback as we were formulating our budget, and we've given them our thoughts and thinking and asked them to help prioritize it for us. So I'm
Can I
really
ask a
very thankful.
quick question?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is for Ray. Sorry, I was going to ask before you got up. I really appreciate the presentation. I'm wondering, what would that look, the metrics for the program offers, what would it look like for them to be more useful?
That's a very good question. I don't think we really have a good answer for that. You know, I can give you maybe an example where beyond just saying, well, we provided, you know, emergency rent assistance for, you know, X number of families last year. How many of those families managed to use that emergency rent assistance to get through sort of a short-term patch and are still in their homes today, a year later or 2 years later? That's probably a simple example. It's one that's probably been, you know, kicked around before. But I think, you know, for each of the programs, those are the sorts of little deeper questions we'd like to ask rather than just how many families did you serve?
So did you all actually go through all the program offers?
I actually did. I'd sprained my ankle, so I was sort of laid up for a day. So fortunately, I had
Nothing else to
time
do?
yeah, just before that 2-hour thoughtful discussion with staff to go through all the program offers.
Okay. Thank you very much, and also appreciate you and the rest of the committee, this work.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ray.
I'll just add, like I have with every department, I'd love the demographics makeup of your CBAC.
Sure, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you. Okay, if we're ready to move on to the next slide, I believe. Let's see, next. And I'm not going to go over that again. I'm just going to leave that for you. That just pretty much talks about our North Star, which is, like I mentioned earlier, is that we are there in everybody's life through their lifespan. So it was really very interesting. We were just giving our CEO, Chris, like a tour, and he's like, boy, you are really at everybody's life in every stage of their life. You know, as we went and visited one of the Aging and Disability Services office in East County, you could see that how older adults had like a meal site, but there was like an Aging and Disability Services program. At the same time, they also had a place where they were doing arts and crafts and quilting, and it was just an amazing experience to see the continuum, again, from serving young adults to the older adult type of life. Next, please. So we have 4 pillars in DCHS, and I wanted to give you like a little bit of an example of the success rate that we have and an example of what we do in this pillar. For example, quality of life is a big one. So a lot of this has to do with a lot of the case managements, the support. We talked about providing people, whether it's a place to live, whether it's be safe from domestic violence and sexual assault. And so one of the measures, for example, we talked about earlier about the Public Guardian's Office. One of the measures that we look at is as we take people into the public guardian office, we look and see like, we want to make sure they don't end up in emergency rooms and hospitalized. And we're proud to report that within a 12-month cycle, the adult care home program was able to keep people 100% safe from going to hospitals, which is really very good in terms of quality of life. It's also good as a cost containment mechanism for the system. The other great program here, and I mentioned Stephen Asser earlier, we are unique in Multnomah County that we have adult care home programs that we license, we sanction, we also monitor those programs. And part of it, we do reviews on, and we go and interview clients who live in these foster homes, and we ask them questions about, how is it to live here? Are you happy? Are you satisfied? Are you getting what you need? And based on that, about 93% of adult care home residents were satisfied with the services they received. Another important example that I want to talk with you on is a client who was receiving services through our IDD program. This client was able to successfully gain full custody of her son. This is significant achievement because again, other than that she was overjoyed, the court decision was to grant her custody of her baby was largely influenced by her stable housing situation. And so I really wanted to thank our IDD group who's really focusing on providing that housing, and that was through RLRA voucher. Again, you know, this is one of so many examples that we can talk about in terms of our pillars and what we do just to bring it close to you. In terms of economic stability, as you see, and we refer to that as economic mobility. Also, for example, the Veteran Services Office, 85% of fiscal year 2024 survey respondents agreed or strongly agreed that they got the help they were looking for today. And in IDD, about 215 clients were enrolled in job coaching, which is about doubled compared to previous year. And in educational success, as in the case of Schools Uniting Neighborhoods, and that's the Sun Schools, about 5,761 households were served. 70% of those were PIPOC families, and 13,604 support services were provided. And so see, these are some of the examples. And finally, I want to talk about the diverse and inclusive system. I'm proud to say that this is one thing I introduced to DCHS. It was not there when I came there as a director. And the purpose of that was to really focus on our contract and contracting and working with providers and see, like, is there diversity in those programs? And I'm proud to say that our Aging and Disability Services program, you may have heard of that, they created or worked on a request for proposal. And part of that, they were able to look at about 16 CBOs, and about 46% of those contracts had diversity and equity on them. And finally, in ADVSD, 83% of PIPOC consumers are case managed by culturally specific provider. So these are some examples that just kind of gives you a little bit of a slice of what we do. One thing I was thinking about in terms of metrics and program offers, it's really daunting, just I want to say, like, it's really, we are going, and I've heard our CBAC loud and clear about how can we make sure that it's just beyond numbers. And so we are looking at that in terms of, like, what is the impact, and hopefully we'll be documenting that more. We do have a performance management council and group of researchers that are looking at that data, and hopefully we'll be doing, like, some data stories, just giving you a lot more stories and data to highlight the impact, and hopefully you will see that more. And my vision is to maybe juxtapose that and put that along dashboard that Christian Elkin has in the budget so that you can see outcomes also correlating basically with those program offers. But just as a reminder, we have almost about 80 program offers, and we have about 3 outcome measures. That's about 240 outcome measures. So I ask that you also be patient. If you ask us and we think like, well, let me look, sometimes it takes a lot of time to kind of research that. And next slide, please. And I have Robert sitting next to me, but he asked me to go over this one because it's the easiest one for me to go over. And then he will delve into a little bit more complex stuff. I like to talk about history. I'm sorry, I've been here for 30 years, but I just want to make it known that when I really started with DCHS and I was a deputy director, we only had $164 million. We only had 614 employees. And now, fast forward, we are at about 430 million. I want to say, I did not get any pay increase as a director when I got preschool for all, just to let you know. Preschool is brought in a lot of money to the department, but that's all extra work that we all had to do, which I'm happy to do. But you'll find out that 15.9% of an increase we have, it is due to preschool, like $59 million, that's from preschool. And in terms of new general fund investments, we have got 6.3 million, one time only. I like to also mention that it's very evident here that we lost staff this year. We did offer a lot of cuts in terms of meeting and balancing our budget. You will see that there's 7.5 decrease from fiscal year 2025. And then I'll let Robert explain that 973.1 million total budget if people have any questions about it. And so with that, I'll turn it to Robert to, is it next to you or me? Sorry. The next slide then. Is it still me? Oh, still me? Sorry, I saw you come here, so I thought. Okay, yeah, I don't want to belabor this because I want to make sure that our directors have enough time to talk about their programs. This really kind of outlines a little bit of our budget approach. I want to let you know that we did work with CBAC actually on our budget approach, and in some of the cuts we proposed, for example, some of the things that our CBAC told us is focus on our, what is our primary focus? What is our pretty much, what is our lane, for example? And so that's one thing we looked at when we looked at cuts and what are the critical services for DCHS. And for example, at some point DCHS used to do mental health and we don't anymore do mental health. So you'll find out that the MDT program was one of the programs that we struggled with, even though it's a program that I have written the RFP for many years ago, and I worked on it. Pains me to see that on the cut list, especially that my name was attached to the letter that went to the providers that supported it. But we had to decide that we're not in the business of mental health, although I'd love to do that as much as possible. So that you'll see the MDT was, for example, on the cut list. Our goal is to make sure that we look at programs that provide safety net, energy assistance, case management. We wanted to preserve the DCHS infrastructure as much as possible. Again, centering equity. I'm very thankful for Dr. Richard, who's really, I meet with him on a weekly basis, and we do a lot of good work, and he does a lot of good work for our department. So he reviewed, and you'll hear from him, he reviewed every program offer also. And then programs for the most vulnerable, children, families, survivors, aging, and disabled population. We focused on those. And then we looked at vacant positions and administrative positions that we offered for cuts. And again, we have critical services such as eviction prevention, SUN, domestic sexual violence, and food programs. We wanted to make sure we preserve those as much as possible. So next slide, please. And actually, Dr. Richard will kick us off and talk about the equity approach that we used to.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. Good to be here today with the chair and the commissioners. Mohammed, thank you for matching me by wearing a blue suit today. I appreciate that. Makes me feel comfortable. And I might add that when I came here 5 years ago until now, I didn't get a raise either. So it's all right. We love doing this work. And one of the things that I do with equity is really utilize that equity and empowerment lens throughout the life cycle of the DCH budget from birth throughout the entire journey of life. And so what we do is we look at the DCHS 4 pillars and how equity are woven into the fabric of every budget decision. And I want to appreciate and thank Mohammed for being inclusive, to have equity not just at the table, but a part of every discussion from the time we start talking about the budget, when decisions are made, providing him recommendations and consulting with him from an equity perspective on this budget. We use the 4 pillars as the backdrop to ensure that we meet the needs, the very specific needs of ethnic and diverse communities. We want to make sure that those specific needs are addressed, really, when we're dealing with this intersection between community need and economic constraint. Most oftentimes, the community may not be as astute as we are when it comes to looking at need and economic constraint. But that's the purpose for having equity at the table, to ensure that not only the needs of internal Multnomah County employees are represented, but more importantly, the needs of external clients who are the recipients of our services. And so I have the privilege every year for the past 5 years of reviewing every single program offer. I think the first year I started, 2 weeks into that, Mohammed gave me 125 program offers to review. And I must admit then I really didn't know what to do except just read and nod my head. But as we continue in this process, and as I begin to acclimate myself to understanding this county budget, I was grateful to have the privilege to really take more of an in-depth look and review and analyze how marginalized communities are impacted by our decisions. And at times, most members in the community may not be in a position to give feedback about how they're impacted. They just feel it after the decision is made. And again, that's the purpose for having equity at the table, to be a representative of all of the voices, both internally and externally. So with the review of the program offers, again, I provide recommendations, suggestions, and consultation to the department director, to my colleagues, the division directors, and to the budget director as well, as we continue throughout the life cycle of the budget to look at these equity impacts or ostensible equity impacts to community and staff. Also have the privilege of leading and serving as a liaison to our department's Diversity, Equity, and Social Justice Committee. There is a subcommittee from that larger group that meets with Robert Stoll, meets with myself. They receive regular updates on the budget. They then take that information, the members of the subcommittee, and go back to the full DESJC committee, and they have discussion and they have dialogue. And from that discussion and dialogue, sometimes there are suggestions, there are recommendations and feedbacks that I take directly to Mohammed for full consideration. And again, I'm appreciative that our diversity committee can be a part of that process. We have close to 1,000 employees, so sometimes it's impossible to hear from every single employee. And the purpose of those members on the diversity committee is to represent their colleagues in their respective decisions to ensure that we're hearing from as many as many staff as possible. Finally, I'm appreciative of Mohammed because he makes equity one of the foundational centerpieces of the budget discussion. And again, I'm just so proud to work by his side. As he articulated earlier, yes, we meet weekly, and during the budget cycle and budget season, as many opportunities as I can get to go to his office and talk to him about things that I see, about things that I observe. From an equity perspective, I appreciate that because his door is always open. And as we continue down the road of finalizing this budget and in future budgets, I just look forward to the continued partnership with Mohammed, with the deputy, with the budget director, our HR manager, Jenny Woods, and my great colleagues, Leslie Barnes, Alexis Alberti, Irma Jimenez, and Lori Stegman, as we continue to make equity a foundational piece and really embed equity into everything we do as it relates to the budget. Thank you so much. I yield the balance of my time back to Mohammed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Robert Stoll, he, him pronouns, DCHS Business Services. It's always hard to follow Dr. Richard. I appreciate your energy, Doc. So this slide here, I always get to do the fun stuff. It's the numbers. Sometimes people tell me the numbers are the boring part of the presentation. I think it's the best part of the presentation. I got the 5 best slides in the whole deck. And number 12 here is the operating budget versus the total budget. So you'll see a total budget of $973 million, but in reality, the operating budget is at $430 million. The 17 and the 524, those are contingency, reserve, and dedicated savings, all related to the Preschool for All Fund. We'll talk about that in more detail when they come up here after the main DCHS presentation. But the number to remember here is that 430, that is the operating budget. Next slide, please. So that 430 number is made up of 5 separate funds. We have the general fund, the federal state fund, that middle all other funds column, that is the COVID ARP funding. Then we have Preschool for All and the supportive housing fund there at the end. Important thing here is general fund went down by almost 11%, about $9 million year over year. Fed state is up by about a COLA amount there, 3.3%. And then supportive housing went down by over 25% year over year. So really the growth in the department that you see that sticks out like a sore thumb there is the Preschool for All Fund. That went up 67%. So all of that growth you're seeing in DCHS, that is Preschool for All. Next slide, please. This is FTE trends over the last few years. You can see we've sort of hovered around the 1,000 FTE mark for the last 4 years or so. We have come down in FY25 and FY26. So total FTE now is 982, down from a high of 1,003 just a couple of years ago. Next slide, please. This is the operating budget by category. The contracted services make up almost 60% of the budget for DCHS now. If you were to look at our budget in FY19 or FY20, you would see that we were about 50-50 between contracted services and personnel back in those days. Now, contracted services really dominates our budget. Again, that is the Preschool for All effect. Most of those services, that budget is contracted out. So that's really driving that shift in the percentages here on this graph. Next slide, please. And we're about to dive into the individual division presentations, but I get one more slide before we do that.
Can we ask, since it's 100 slides, can we ask questions at the flipping point so that our questions aren't from something 45 minutes earlier?
Yes, that's fine. Yeah, we can go. Yeah, as we're getting new title slides, we'll stop and go for questions.
So I have some questions about the ones we just went through.
Okay.
One more.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I think he's got one more.
Oh,
I got one more, Commissioner. Just one more.
I thought we flipped over.
You're okay. This one's a fun one. So this one is operating budget by division. Here we can see ADVSD is our largest division by FTE at over 50% of the total FTE for the department. But now preschool and early learning division is actually the largest division by dollars in DCHS. I believe that's the first year that that has happened. One thing to note, that $162 million you see for PEL, that is the operating budget within DCHS. It is not the total Preschool for All operating budget. That includes money in DCM, in non-D, in the health department. So when you see their slides, they'll have a slightly different number than that 162. Otherwise, admin is a little below 3% of the department. IDD is around 10%, and YFS is just over 21%. And that is a nice stopping point for go to the next slide.
Well,
We'll dive into admin.
I really want to just like maybe put like a lot of underlines under 2.84%, because I mean, that's really outstanding for DCHS. It's got the lowest administration probably of anything you can see. And so that's the administration here, like few of us. That's all. Yep.
Great. Okay, why don't we open up for questions? Commissioner Brum Edwards?
Slide 15. So you said the increase in contractual service from 2022 has gone from 147 to 249. And you're saying almost all of that is preschool for all? 100 million?
A very big chunk of that's those slots in preschool for all, for the most part.
And then if that's mostly contracted services, I'm curious about the next line down, which is personnel, which goes from 96 to 141, which seems like, what is that?
And you'll see, if we went back a slide to number 14, we'll see that the FTE growth did occur there between 21, 22, and then there's a bit of a jump there in 23. Some of that is FTE growth from preschool for all, because it does have some FTE with it. And some of that is growth in both IDD and ADVSD as they had additional state funding in that biennium. So there is some personnel growth that is happening there, but it's certainly being outpaced by the contractual growth.
Right, but it's a $50 million, or almost a $50 million increase.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
again,
from
it's going to include,
22 to 26.
and that's going to include COLA increases for all of those years, health insurance increases for all of those years as well. So it's just a sort of normal growth of personnel, if you will.
So just to go back, looking at the slide, the 22, it went from 780 to 960. And while there's been a decrease, there's projected decrease this next year, it's still 200 over what it was in 2022.
And it may be that we also need to speak with Irma and Alexis. I know that there is something that was called the workload model at the state level, and I know that both aging disability services and intellectual and developmental disabilities have received additional state funding for case management. And so I know in some of those years, we've hired kind of a significant number of case managers. And so I'm wondering, we can dig at that maybe and get back to you.
Yeah, I'd love to see, since I wasn't there during that time period, to see sort of what created that pretty significant increase. Like I say, it's a year over year, projected to be a slight decrease, but really it's a pretty significant increase.
Yeah, there was one time I remember where we had 40 or 50 case managers that came to us. And I believe we've done a lot of advocacy at the time with the state to improve our workload by adding additional funding. And so we can probably look at that.
Backup detail, that'd be helpful. And then,
And Commissioner Moore, were you pointing out that there was an increase of 100 million state and federal dollars from one year to the next?
I think that when they did the workload rebalance for how big our caseloads are, that came with an.
Can you turn on your microphone? Sorry.
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 Yeah, I'm just pointing out that when the state took an action to change what the caseload numbers were, and that resulted in us getting funding of $100 million for additional staff. And before that, it's not great now, but it was ridiculously bad then.
great, so just getting the detail, that'd be the other thing. At some point, just also getting like where the vacancies, the list of the vacancies. I think I saw them somewhere.
They are in the slide deck somewhere. I wouldn't know
Yeah,
which
okay.
number, but they are definitely there in the appendices towards the back end, I believe around slide 89, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, and then just a general comment. I love the continuum of services slide. It's just a great sort of laying out the services. As we move through, and this is just part of my learning, as we move through the divisions, it'd be useful to know like where something is like required and where this is Multnomah County providing a discretionary service.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, we can do that, yeah. And if you want to, maybe as each division director maybe talk, they can let you know. Most of everything is really, we have a few things that are, we do in Multnomah County that are, best practice or quality, but a lot of them are still mixed with state funds or leveraging those with match. So there's not like a lot of stuff we do that is purely like just is not mandated one way or another. We ready to move to the next section, or do you have any more questions?
No, the budgeted vacancy starts on slide 89.
So I think we want to move to slide 18, if you would, Marina. And then I'm going to give it to Rachel Pearl.
Thanks, Robert. Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Rachel Pearl. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Deputy Director for DCHS. I feel like I'm the ultimate hype girl for DCHS. I truly believe in all of these people who work for DCHS, the ones you've already heard from, the ones that you will hear from, the people that work for and with us, and the way that we show up to serve the community. We're innovative, compassionate, and grounded in equity. And most importantly, for me, and I think all of the other folks sitting up here and waiting to come up, because of the brilliant and wonderful human beings who we serve. Those people matter, and they make this world a better place, as Mohammed shared in the beginning. I'll briefly cover the administration division slides. DCHS administration is responsible for leadership and oversight for the entire department. As you know, DCHS is the second largest department in the county and very complex. Administration is responsible for the budget, contract administration and management, accounts payable, HR, department-wide equity and inclusion efforts, as Dr. Richards spoke to, strategic planning, and communications. Next slide, please. And if the chair's budget is adopted, DCHS administration will absolutely deliver. And these are some of those examples. We do have several direct service programs embedded within the administration division. These are often special programs, such as the newly arrived families program offer. And the outcomes for FY26 that are stated here are actually conservative outcomes. We have less funding in that program offer, and we worked pretty collaboratively to find additional funding sources to support families in FY25, and we'll do so to try to make that happen in FY26 as well. But we will definitely provide emergency housing support for 110 families and permanently house 30 households as well. ESF 6, which is Emergency Support Function 6, or Mass Care Shelter, is also in DCHS administration. So that tiny but mighty 3-person plus me team provides oversight support, 24-hour support for those shelters when they're operational. And we also do all of the staffing, recruitment, and training to make sure we have appropriate staffing and volunteers to do that work.
Can I just ask you a quick question?
Sure.
When you say emergency housing, are you talking about emergency shelter? I'm trying to get to shared definitions across departments.
Sure. I think it's emergency hoteling, essentially.
Okay,
Yeah.
so thank you.
Yep.
Same, emergency shelter.
Yep.
Got it. Thank
Yep.
you.
So we will also, in partnership with the chair's office, DCHS will take the lead on producing a comprehensive report on the health and well-being of children in Multnomah County. I think it's a great idea, and this report will provide critical information for us, information that we really need to help us determine where we should prioritize our investments to ensure that our younger generation is thriving and has access to the right services, and it will assist us in continuing to make data-informed decisions on priority programming for children.
Can I ask, for a follow-up on that issue. What would be different than what Children First for Oregon produces? Because they do produce by county, that's funded by Annie E. Casey Foundation. And what would be duplicative?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Commissioner. I think we can certainly follow up as we build out the plan for that report and make sure that what we're doing makes the most sense for our county and highlights the specific needs for Multnomah County, for sure.
Yeah, but they collect by county. So I just want to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I guess the question I'd have is like, what is the gap that's perceived that we would need to do one? I mean, they've been doing one for, a long time.
Yeah.
A long time. Do we
I
perceive a gap in,
I think there's potentially specific areas that we could explore, and I think we can have further conversation around that as we sort of map out what that will look like. Okay. Our fourth bullet on here is around being an employer of choice. That's an initiative that's been very important to Mohammed and to the entire leadership team. So DCHS has made a commitment to continue to strive to be an employer of choice. We do this through centering the critical work that we do, the people that we serve, while also building strong relationships with our union stewards, investing in training and support for our managers and employees, using data and staff feedback to inform new initiatives. We center equity and inclusion while increasing internal communications and ensuring that we're in a constant feedback loop with our entire DCHS team. This work doesn't happen without the employees who show up every day to support this community, and we need them to feel seen and celebrated. Next slide, please. So not much has increased in our administration division. However, we did bring over 1 FTE from the Homeless Services Department for our emergency support function 6 team. So we do have a third emergency management analyst senior that responds to severe weather and in any disaster would support mass care sheltering needs. Next slide, please. So just a couple of outcomes from FY25 that are in the administration division. So under our ESF 6 team, we led 43 training sessions, and those are both for community members as well as staff, trying to increase that cadre of folks who are prepared to do that work. We supported 2,261 guests during 14 days of activations, and 33% of shelter workers were DCHS employees. And our newly arrived families in FY25, we supported over 140 families with emergency shelter. And that was over 500 individuals. And we have permanently housed over 65 families as well to date. Next slide. Oh, and we'll pass it to the amazing Irma Jimenez for the next section.
is this the time I can ask questions?
I think so.
Okay. That transition slide. So I'm going to go back to slide 19. So I'm curious, this is more just trying to understand how it's formatted. Why is newly arrived families in administration?
I think it's the pilot project. And so oftentimes when we get special projects that are pilot projects that are highly complex, we facilitate them out of the administration division. I think that as we, evaluate, what this looks like moving forward into future years, I think that if it became an ongoing program, there'd probably be discussion around where it best fits.
And then this is going to be the same question I'm going to ask throughout, and I've asked every department, so it's nothing special, but on like slide 21, I'm sorry, how many newly arrived families were there? So we apparently served 165 navigated to permanent housing, and 140 provided them with emergency housing, but out of like the size of the need.
Yeah,
I don't need it now.
Yeah.
Again, knowing what we're shooting
sure.
for, same thing with severe weather. Did we serve 100% of the people who needed it?
Yes.
So just,
I can tell you severe weather, we don't turn people away. And so that is definitely a commitment that we've made in severe weather to date. And that's another reason why our team is continuing to try to increase capacity for staffing. So it's critically important that we continue to meet that goal, because the reason why we're opening those shelters is that the conditions outside are life-threatening, so it becomes a life-saving measure at that point in time. And, I'm happy to give you more information on the process and how the system is working for newly arrived families, and that those are people who have gone through a formal process to seek asylum, and that is part of that is the community in which we're serving. So we can get back, I can get back to you on numbers for that as best I can. Are we good? Okay.
All right, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Irma Jimenez. I am the Division Director for Aging, Disability, and Veteran Services, and I use she, her pronouns. Our division serves...
Can you bring the mic a little?
Yeah, sorry. Our division serves older adults, people with disabilities that are age 18 and over, and veterans. I'm not sure if you all saw the Wednesday Wire yesterday. It was great timing of an article. It highlights an individual who received assistance through our transition and diversion team. It highlighted David Cohen, who was 81 years old. He was living independently in his home on a fixed income and with limited health insurance. Diabetic. Unfortunately, he ended up in the hospital and not able to return home after surgery. Our transition and diversion team was able to assist him in finding placement that met his care needs, and also was able to enroll him into Medicaid benefits that covered his unpaid medical costs that he incurred while he was in the hospital. Mr. Cohen really talked about the great experience that he had working with this team. It's a great story. I encourage you all to read it if you didn't get to see it. He is a Portland native. He was a chemist also for the U.S. Army, so he's actually also a veteran, and he's real crafty. They have a picture of him working on some leather. This story provides a small glimpse of what we do and the people that we serve in ADVSD, including participant satisfaction. Next slide, please. I think we're one more. Yeah. The majority of our budget is used for staffing over 540 FTE to administer over 30 programs. This slide details the accomplishments that a handful of our programs will meet with the approval of our budget. Our eligibility and intake teams assist consumers through our lengthy and complicated application process. Folks that call us have health issues and not able to get through the process or don't have anybody to assist them. They're older adults who are not familiar with technology and not able to submit an online application, or they don't speak English. So it's really important that we have staff to help them through the process. We have staff, our staff have great customer service skills. Some of them are bilingual and bicultural and really knowledgeable about the services that we offer and are able to connect folks to appropriate benefits. Not completing an application or going through the application process is a huge barrier that really keeps people from accessing our benefits. I'm not sure if you all have had an experience of assisting somebody going through that Medicaid process. I know I have, and it was even challenging for me. They also determine eligibility and Medicaid programs as well as benefits through our supplemental nutrition assistance program. And through these teams, we will serve over 60,000 participants in fiscal year 26. We also offer case management through contracts with our community-based organizations for our Older Americans Act services and through our long-term services and supports. We're still on the other.
Backslide.
Yeah, no. That one, yeah. Sorry. Just want to highlight that 800 participants will be served through culturally specific providers. With our abuse investigations, our adult protective services, they not only investigate reports of abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation, but they also provide connections tailored to each individual's needs and to prevent re-abuse. For example, helping them with restraining orders or referrals to law enforcement. And then when there's an appropriate connection made with our either public guardian and conservatorship program or our long-term care program, these individuals can be connected to permanent housing or placement. And with our veteran services program, you see the huge amount of retroactive payments or benefits that this team will recover for veterans and their families in the next fiscal year. Next slide, please. The county general fund makes up just 12% of our total budget, with most of it coming from federal and state funding. The slight increase that you see boosting our overall budget is due to COLA and step increases accounted for in our federal and state funding. We have not received information on what our funding will be for the next biennium from the state. From Oregon Department of Human Services. They are actually also currently going through their budget cycle. We were just asked to budget at our current service level with those slight increases. And we will lose a net 2 FTE in fiscal year 26. Next slide, please. The outcome that, our first outcome that I'll be talking about is equitable access and connection to support. The feedback that we often hear is that the community does not know how to contact us or know about the programs that we offer. This also shows up in a needs assessment that we completed earlier this year. Our Aging, Disability, and Resource Connection Helpline is a low barrier entry level for all of our ADVSD programs. In fiscal year 25, we moved our after hours, which is the evenings, weekends, and holidays, in-house, and we ended our contract with an outside provider. This really created a great improvement on customer service and efficiency and reducing duplicated work. This team also attends a variety of community events throughout the year, sharing information about our programs and, most importantly, how to reach us through our ADRC. Next slide, please. This is continuing with the same outcome. ADVSD created a homeless mobile intake team a few years back. It's not the traditional way of connecting to our services, which is either coming into a branch office, giving us a call, or online. This team is out in the community, in shelters, on the streets, and encampments, serving individuals where they're at. This team has showed great success. Of the 233 individuals referred to them, from July 2024 to present, about half of them, 110, have obtained housing or residential placement, permanent housing or residential placement through our long-term care program. And then we contract with 16 community-based organizations that are located throughout the county who serve over 6,000 participants. And 7 of these partners provide linguistically and culturally specific services, reaching out to even broader communities. Next slide, please. Its second outcome is around safety and economic stability. We have 3 programs in ADVSD that we consider our safety net programs. Our Public Guardian program has legal authority to make decisions for our most vulnerable population. This includes financial protection through conservatorship, securing benefits and adequate placement. Really allows folks access to medical care. They make decisions, day-to-day decisions for these individuals. This is a small but mighty team. It serves 135 participants. And our, I talked about our Adult Protective Services program earlier. I just wanted to mention that they work all these 3 teams work very closely together. Our adult care home program, which Mohammed did mention, talk about a little bit earlier, they ensure that residents are safe by creating a set of local licensing rules that meet or exceed the state requirements. In Multnomah County, we do have an exception to license all the foster homes in Multnomah County, including those for IDD and mental health. We license up to 650 homes, really with the goal to guarantee a safe and healthy environment for individuals that are receiving care. Also, the owners of these homes, they're small business owners. The majority of them are women, either first or second generation immigrants, and really able to provide some economic stability for them. Next slide, please. And then our last outcome is support for quality of life. Out of the 60,000 plus served by long-term services and supports, 12,000 are participants who need assistance with their activities of daily living and require caregiving support. We know that people who live at home or age at place often have a better quality of life compared to those residing in institutional settings. Oregon is widely recognized as a leader in community-based living and care, and one statistic I'll share to kind of show this is over 80% of these participants that are receiving care in their home or in the community rather than living in a nursing facility. Our nutrition program serves approximately 480,000 meals per year that helps meet individuals' basic needs and improves their quality of life. And then lastly, our safety net program offers a variety of services that support housing stability, including eviction prevention. We provide rent and utility assistance, also some extreme cleaning, including bed bug removal that often puts individuals at risk for eviction. Providing these services allow for our consumers to age and with safety and dignity in the choice of their own choice of living arrangement and increase their quality of life. And ADVSD is here to support those individuals. So thank you for allowing me to uplift some of ADVSD's programs.
I have some questions here, and I'm going to go backwards through your slides. So on the eviction prevention in here, is the 544 households or people? I'd love to get follow-up on how number of households.
Could you turn your?
Oh,
We can break that down. I guess it wouldn't be like, are you thinking like 2 people in one house, or is it just individual households?
yeah, whatever the household is, because some households could have 10 people in them, and that's, I'm not saying we shouldn't
Right.
do that, but I'm just interested in number of
Yeah.
households. And then also retention rates. So how long are people staying in their housing
We
post-subsidy?
can definitely get you that information. We can break it down to, the folks by age and by race as well. if you'd
Okay,
like.
thank you. And then on the bed bug remediation, I know that that can be expensive and time consuming, and I certainly hope that landlords are following their responsibility on that, and that we're only having to do it for folks that actually are the cause of the problem, but when they get them from the building, I know that's hard, but I'm saying it out loud for the world to hear that landlords
you.
have a responsibility here around bed bug remediation.
Right. And a lot of our folks are on Section 8 housing, and so they have to have, they get those inspections and, also with the deep cleaning. But yeah, I thank you for saying that out loud.
Yeah.
You run into that problem.
On slide 27, I would be interested in the person-centered outcomes. These are mostly about intakes or licensure, but what is the outcome for the people in these different programs like APS? Again, that's fine to come as follow-up.
Yeah. Thank you for recognizing. Yeah, I had 9 minutes, and so I was like trying to.
Oh, of course. Yeah,
I was
I
trying to
know.
figure out.
And Mohammed is no joke about the time. for
Yeah,
y'all
I know.
today.
That's why I was like,
Well, we're
like 20
way
times. I'm like, I have 9 minutes, but I actually took about 10. So
You did great. What types of services, on slide 26, I'm not really clear, what types of services are the CBOs providing?
So they're providing services through our Older Americans Act. So nutrition, congregate meals, they do transportation, they have health promotion. So there's a whole list of those that I can also provide to you. Yeah, but yeah.
That's great, and our CBOs are amazing. I just couldn't put it in context with the other things on this
Yeah, I
slide
know.
of
I
which
cut out
piece
a
they were doing.
bunch of stuff.
No worries. And then I think on that same slide, so you talked about the mobile intake team, and I'm curious why or how or when we start rethinking these intakes and eligibility. I think that I will say, as a former case manager, it was challenging for me that people had to learn how to navigate the system as opposed to workers ever coming to them. And it's really important to me that our programs across departments are serving people, whether they're housed or unhoused. And it feels like we're setting up special programs like HMIT to serve a population that is eligible and qualifies for services, but we're just not delivering services in a way that's accessible to them. And so I'm saying this because I know, and we've had some conversation about some potential proposed reduction in a budget amendment I have to this program. So I wanted to bring that up because that's some of the why behind it is this is 5 FTE on a 39 FTE team, but that 34 remaining FTE should be able to serve people who are experiencing homelessness. How are folks, if you didn't have HMIT, how would this team be serving people who aren't housed and walk into the building?
We do serve folks that are unhoused and walk into our building. This is just a team. So sometimes they don't get the benefits that they're eligible for because we lose contact with them. And so with this team, like they're able to place these folks into temporary housing, like into a hotel. And that's what story I was going to share before this one came up. But, you know, this person, we were able to put them in a hotel and be able to have that consistent contact with them while we went through the whole process. And so a lot of times, I mean, we can make an appointment for somebody, you know, to make sure that they can come in at a certain time, but a lot of times they don't show up, or we've made appointments at a Starbucks or something to meet folks and they don't show up. So it's not that, you know, it just gets challenging when we're not able to continue to have contact with them on a continuous basis. So, but we do serve a lot of folks that are houseless, especially through our downtown office.
Thank you. And I think that this is another place where, at least for my fellow commissioners, where I continue to feel like we have people working with folks who are either contracted through homeless services, they have these relationships, and they don't have access to other county programs, and those workers can't access it either. And so this will continue to be something, again, I'm not just asking of this department, is how are we thinking about our services so that we're serving the full range of people in our county?
Just wanted to really actually give a shout out and credit to Irma because several years ago, she identified that I was asking her about what would be her dream if she's to do something. And she said, this is a population that's not getting what they needed. And she's actually identified that as a gap in the system. And she proposed that and actually did win like a national award. But it was like, I think she and her team were figuring out like, what can we do? And there was a gap in the system, and so it just felt that need.
And so outside of HMIT, how many of your intake workers are mobile?
All of our intake workers go out in the field.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the total FTE for that is the 39 FTE with general fund and
For intake,
SHS? Mm-hmm.
we have.
Eligibility and intake, that category on slide 23, that
Yeah,
first
that's a
category.
mixture of folks who do financial eligibility and intake for our long-term care program. So we actually have hundreds of workers.
Okay.
I don't have the full number.
That's okay.
Microphone.
We've had about, yeah. Well, we're changing the way we do our work as well. So we're not going to be having an intake team anymore per se. Our ongoing case managers are actually going to be doing intake and keeping the cases. So that's because the work it's too much just to have that small team to do intake. We started to get behind. And so we're now changing the process where all of our case managers, which are at CM2 level, are going to be doing intake. And we've got a couple of branch offices that are currently doing that right now. So we're in the process. It just wasn't sustainable with that.
I might also add, because I used to manage long-term care programs. The way Irma earns those FTEs from the state, it's really limited to, they cannot really spend hours and hours with, so this is a state funding, and I think what she's saying is whatever she earns, the workers cannot really possibly do intakes on complex cases, they do go out, but I think there is a productivity level. They're expected to finish cases within 45 days, so many clients at a time. And so this specialized unit allows them to a little bit of cushion, so they are able to spend a little bit more time, track people, go find them, because the state funding is a bit kind of wonky there.
I appreciate that. It sounds like we need to have something on our next state legislative agenda to address that problem. Thank you.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have some questions.
Oh, please go ahead.
Slide 28. Specifically, the Nutrition the Older Americans Act. I'm wondering if this is the point in time where you'd want me to ask about, it looks like from Program Offer 25033, that actually projecting this next year to have a reduction in the number of meals served. It looks like, if I'm reading it correctly, that the target this year is 360 plus 35, 360,000 plus 35, when last year there was 479.
I think the reduction might have to do, and I have my budget person here.
I can ask it later.
Okay.
I wasn't sure at what point I should ask, but it looks
Yeah,
like,
I
so
know.
my question is, it looks like we actually will be funding 100,000 fewer meals.
Yeah, and I know that we have been getting, some of our funding has been reduced. When we got COVID, when there was COVID, we had tons of money to do Older Americans Act, for our Older Americans Act, and that has been decreasing.
But-
Jacob, did you want to?
I'm just reading from, like, this looks like the 479 meals that are listed on page 28 page 28 as an outcome, but the program offer looks like you're actually going to actually be funding 100,000 meals less this year, unless I'm reading it incorrectly.
Director, this may be, you had shared with me, because I had those nutrition concerns, that there was an OTO nutrition program last year, and I'm just curious if that's impacting what the commissioner's talking about.
Expert, answer it here. Go ahead.
Chair and Commissioners, I'm Jacob Mestman. I use he and him pronouns. I work as a budget manager. So there's a couple of reasons. One that Irma spoke to, the ARP funding that we've had about $5 million since 2000 fiscal year 21 is ending. And so that's one of the reasons of the reduced meals, as well as we had some carryover from the last biennium, and we're not expecting to have that in the next year. So we can pull the actual numbers and figures together, but those are two of the kind of driving factors for that.
Yes, when I'm looking at the program offer, it looks like the county just puts in 23,000 of general fund, and the rest of the funds were other. No, let's see, that was in 2025, and this year there's 319. Is that correct? So we have an increase in general fund, but overall the outcome is, for a variety of reasons, because I appreciate I got some background information about this, but the outcome is we're serving 100,000 fewer meals.
Yeah, and that's a reduction of funding through the Older Americans Act in both the COVID or the ARP funding, American Rescue Plan funding, as well as the general 3C, 3C1 and 3C2 that was not, as much was carried over from the last biennium.
Do we know what the impact that is going to have on community county residents of reducing meals by 100,000? Are people just not going to have meals, or are we anticipating they're going to get services some other way?
I mean, through our congregate meals, I think if people show up, they sometimes ask for a donation. So I think some folks may still be served, but we'd have to look at, obviously there's going to be an impact if we're serving less meals. So we'll have to dig into that a little bit more, and that team may have already. So I can get back to you on that.
Yeah, I have just two general concerns. One, we know the population in Multnomah County is getting older,
Yes.
older American women. And then second, I've just heard from some members of my community who receive those meals that they're concerned about their overall reduction. And with specifically, I think there's been additional funds for culturally specific nutrition services, which has been very helpful, and that, say, losing that, it's a big number to have just decreased suddenly, because it doesn't mean that people aren't
I'm
going to.
wondering, for the sake of time, we're happy to give you more info. I know we still have youth
Okay,
and
I'm just
family.
flagging
We
your
have
concerns
ADVSD.
early on. And I
We
think
have-
we appreciate the answers I've gotten to date about why some of that.
Yeah, you betcha. We can get you those. We still have like 2 divisions to present. We have Alexis waiting patiently here to present on IDD. And then after that, we still have Lori. Yeah.
So, go ahead. Just ask our question.
Okay, I just have one, because I want to call this out, and then we can juxtapose it to other departments. Irma, can you talk about what kind of the core values of aging and disability services, or aging and people with physical disability services, is related to personal choice, autonomy, dignity, self-direction, those type of, like, how do we approach the work? What is the values that are kind of key?
So, our team, well, the consumers, we really try to, when we create their plan of care, right? We really have the consumer engaged in the plan of care. Of course, sometimes there are some things that we cannot offer, right? That are not available, but really putting them in the center of the work that we do, and allowing them to make the decisions that they would like to see, choice of where, a lot of folks, as I stated in here, would rather live in a home than in a facility. But sometimes, as you know, because of other issues, as far as like, there's no affordable housing around. So a lot of times we can't offer that, so we have to give them the next choice. But I think really centering folks in the decisions that we make, and let them make those decisions for themselves. All we can do is really offer them and give them the choice, and really know what we're able to offer them at that time.
So I know that, I just want to know, so we have ICS after this, and we have folks coming from the Community Health Center Board who are only able to be here this afternoon. So we may, I just am putting out that we may have to limit and bring DCHS back. That's why I keep bringing it up, because I know you guys practice, but I know how these, everybody has so many questions, which is great, but I want to make sure we have time for it.
Before we move sections, and this is just an information request, on 23, you have, slide 23, you have one of the budget delivering on abuse investigations, and it has 9,800 intakes and 3,000 completed investigations. And I don't need it now, but just what happened to the other 6,000? Are they incomplete, in flight, closed? So again, I don't need it now, but.
Mike.
Yeah, I had that in a lot of them are consultations, but yeah, we can get that information to you.
Yeah, my question is just centered around the homeless outreach team. You guys are doing, I'm assuming you're doing work out in East Multnomah County as well? Just what?
The homeless mobile intake team?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we work throughout the whole county.
Great. So I'm just curious how your office or the services are partnering with the homeless outreach team that's currently in place in Gresham, city of Gresham, and then also the 3 cities. You don't have to answer that now. We can
Oh, okay.
talk about
They do work with the Portland Outreach, so they do work with other teams. But yeah, I can get you that information as well. We actually got the manager here from the homeless mobile intake team, but due to time, we can answer it.
Great, thank you.
I really think in the future, Aging and Disability Services and DD may have their own spot because this is getting to be a very large department, and it may be that I'm wondering if we want to come back again. We're happy to answer those questions, but I know that also preschool is presenting too, so maybe I look for your guidance, Chair and Commissioners. What do you like us to do now?
So we have until 3:15, so we have about 45 more minutes. So can you get through the next two divisions? Or as
Sure.
close as possible? It's
It's
just,
9 minutes each, so 18 minutes. I know that she can do it in 9.
I
Yes.
love it, love the goal setting. Yes.
Well, thank you, Mohammed.
If we can get to IDD and then Youth and Family Services, if we can get to those two.
Okay. Good afternoon, or is it, what time is it? Yeah, we're in the afternoon. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Alexis Alberti. I'm the Division Director for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Today, I want to share with you about what it means to receive services in Multnomah County from our program and how our budget supports those experiences. Our case managers are a lifeline for many in the community. And to your question earlier, our values do center around dignity of choice, self-centered direction, and making sure that individuals have the highest quality of life in our program. And so I'd just like to start with one story about an individual who we currently serve. And because we serve individuals birth through the lifespan, we've been with this individual for several decades. And they were born at a time when families were really encouraged to institutionalize their children who had disabilities. And because of their family's love and dedication, they wanted and were committed to serving them in their family home. And throughout the time that they've been in our program, there's been times that they've received just case management services. When things might have needed more intensive engagement, our case managers were able to step in. And then when their primary caretaker began to transition, what could have been a tragedy really turned into a triumph for this individual because we were able to find them long-term care in a foster care setting for adults. And this individual now works. They are a thriving community member. They have friends, they have day sport activities. And so we're just really committed to ensuring that individuals have what they need at every stage of their lives. And so with that, I will go into our next slide, which really talks about how our budget delivers on some of these activities and engagements. We currently serve around 6,000 individuals for case management, and that looks like a wide variety of services and complexities depending on what the individual needs. It could be supporting housing access, employment, transportation, community inclusion. But in addition to those 6,000 individuals, we also serve an additional 1,700 clients who are case managed through what's called a brokerage. It's a nonprofit case management entity. So we do all of their intake and eligibility, as well as any potential abuse investigation. So bringing the total amount of individuals we serve to around 7,735 folks. Some of the other things that our program does is we usher in millions of dollars into the local economy through enrolling folks in long-term services, as well as supporting our personal support workers, many of who come from diverse backgrounds, speak English as a second language, so we support them as well. We, at the center and core of all what we do is really looking at health and safety. So our program continues to grow, so do abuse investigations and referrals. We are on target to screen around 2,000 reports of abuse annually, and that does evolve year over year because our program also grows year over year. Next slide. So this is our fiscal year 26 operating budget slide. What you'll see is that we are budgeting for current service levels at 233 FTE. The bulk of our budget, 89% of it, is state and federal funds, and our current forecast maintains these current service levels, adapting a slight shift. We did take a 14% reduction in county general funds, but we did accomplish maintaining our current service levels by doing a strategic approach to swapping out some positions from general fund and then funding them with state and federal funds. So you'll see a slight number changes from 28 to 24 for county general fund, and then 203 to 207 for state and federal funds, and then supportive housing services remaining the same. One thing to note is the Oregon legislature will vote pretty soon on our budget and our workload model for the 25-27 biennium, and then at that time, it'll determine what our future funding will be for this biennium. Next slide. So at the beginning of our outcome statement slides, we really wanted to focus on the quality of life of the folks that we're serving in IDD. Our goal is really to continue to not only provide the service and connect them with long-term services, whether funded or unfunded, but really to evaluate how we're doing and how we're delivering on that. So we do conduct annual customer satisfaction surveys, biennial surveys to assess that. And 89% of the folks in our program do report satisfaction with their surveys or their services. And we compare that data to the National Core Indicator Survey, which takes a nationwide view, as well as to the Oregon survey that takes a statewide view. And we exceed both of those outcomes on a national level and a statewide level. Next slide. And then in IDD, we like to say it's not about getting keys, but keeping keys. And long-term stable housing relies on a plethora of factors. And when we can provide wraparound services that are person-centered, individuals are not only able to obtain housing, but to maintain housing. That also means that they're more likely to have gainful employment, stay connected to their primary care physicians, have better mental health outcomes. And I really want to thank Ray, our CBAC member, for elevating what's the impact of the work that you're doing. How do we know that it's working? And we see really great outcomes for our supportive housing services and our short-term rental services because we're able to provide that person-centered wraparound service model with 99% of our clients who are housed remaining stably housed 12 months after receiving a short-term housing assistance. And we also take data on demographic data, who we're serving, age, race, ethnicity data. So if you want any information on that, we can also provide that. But we are totally dedicated to ensuring that individuals in the IDD community have long-term stable housing at the same rate as other populations. Next slide. So in Oregon, we operate under a home and community-based waiver that prioritizes access and choice in your living situations. Mohammed talked about it earlier. We always look at the least restrictive setting possible, and we help to usher that for folks in our community. Of course, in Multnomah County, we align with those values and those principles. And then we also evaluate, as we're working with families and individuals to find living situations, do they enjoy or like where they live? And so we do conduct that as a part of our biennial satisfaction survey, with 92% of adults who are receiving a funded service or in their own home expressing satisfaction with where they live. And again, we do compare that data to the National Core Indicators data and the Oregon State data. And again, we outpace those outcomes. And then our final slide, which really centers on diverse and inclusive systems. This slide specifically focuses on, are we serving underserved communities at the same rate as what's identified in the census data for Multnomah County? And so we have a goal to ensure that we're reaching those communities. And in addition to that, we have a lot of targeted key initiatives that we've launched in the last few years to help us keep pace with census data, and that looks like targeted outreach to communities who have traditionally not been served by our program, and we've seen the results of that by this data of really increasing and enhancing services to those communities. We provide culturally responsive services and have invested in that. Other skills and abilities positions. We have case managers who speak the top 7 languages in the county, and we're constantly evaluating that data to see where we need to add more. We have expanded our community engagement activities. We've expanded our IDDSD advisory board and made sure that it's been diversified. But in addition to those initiatives, we've also looked internally at our structure, what we're doing to help train and develop our staff as it relates to equity and inclusion. We've also expanded our communications around our values and centering equity and inclusion in the work that we do, because we're serving such a diverse population of folks. And because of that, those investments, we've also yielded really positive results in our division, with 95% of our division staff reporting increased feelings of belonging and satisfaction with being in IDD as a division with our annual employee satisfaction surveys. And so I just wanted to highlight a few of our positive outcomes and the effectiveness of these focused areas. And with that, I would welcome questions. I think I was at like 6 minutes.
You did amazing. All right, open up for questions.
Yeah, I got a couple questions. Of the 6,000 plus individuals that we do their case management, what is the breakdown by setting?
That's a great question. So we can do a deeper dive, but 80% or more live in their own home setting and receive long-term services, and the remaining might be in foster care or residential. But as you know, in Oregon, we have no institutional care anymore, thank goodness. So no one lives in an institution in IDD.
And I know in some other communities, and I'm sure it exists here too, that there are a number of individuals who are in a congregate setting who express a desire to have their own apartment, and because Medicaid does not pay for housing, they're actually in a more restrictive environment. Do we encounter that?
Absolutely. That's definitely, and considering that we live in Multnomah County, it's very costly. So even if some of our individuals wanted to move in a setting of their own choosing, the market is pricing them out. But we have been working very closely with the state to look at what are some different models of care, and then advocating for that. So I think that's something that we could all be thinking more about in a legislative aspect to how we can support that. We do have supported living. So for some individuals who might have a subsidy and they do live in their own apartment, they might not need ongoing care, but they might need support on an ad hoc basis, and we can help provide that as well. And so we do have a bulk of folks who have that type of living situation.
Since most adults with IDD are on Medicaid, and we are a very large healthcare provider of Medicaid, I am wondering, I both asked our dental clinic, and also I've talked a little bit to our other clinic staff, why is it that we are not able to internally serve people with IDD in our Multnomah County FQHC dental? And are you aware that it is extremely difficult for people with developmental disabilities to receive dental care and behavioral health care?
Yes, that is a huge barrier in our system. And I will tell you that just this morning, I was on a call with the Association of Community Mental Health Programs and learned that Senate Bill 729 just passed, which makes it illegal to discriminate against folks with IDD to receive behavioral health services. So it's very timely.
I might have.
So, yes, so I absolutely think there is some more advocacy that we can do around dental care, because just because you have an intellectual or developmental disability should not preclude you from any other type of services that you're entitled to.
Yes,
Not a
you're
leading
totally right. But I bring this up because I think we have a special role in making sure those services are available, and the fact that we can't internally serve clients is something I would like a cross-departmental strategy, because I think it's really important. If we don't, it's very unlikely that people will be able to find that care. So those are my questions. Thank you.
I just have a couple of questions. On your survey, what's the response rate for your surveys for your consumer satisfaction?
We have a pretty high response rate, but I can get you the exact number from our research evaluation analyst.
Okay, thank you. And then what I'm looking at is the N, as far as these percentages. Is that the total number of clients you have, or is that just based on the number of respondents?
Number of respondents.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to, again, just on terms, because does short-term housing mean rapid rehousing on slide 23 or 33?
Short-term housing is really our Home Forward grant, so a short-term rental assistance. So
Okay.
it could be a one-time activity.
Great, so that's the rapid rehousing with Strahl. And this can be follow-up. I'd love a breakdown of the number and percentage of preventions, eviction prevention versus placements, and then retention rates for each type. And just to clarify, because the language is a little hard for me on this one, but when you say 12 months after receiving, you're saying 12 months post-subsidy is those retention rates?
Yes.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
That's it, thank you.
Any other questions over here?
I have just this, I don't need it now, but it's just
You just turn your mic on.
I have a question, it's the same question I had on adult protective services. Just on slide 30, the abuse investigation. If I could get just, again, the breakdown of the outcome of those, like, what comes out of it.
Yes, we can do
Great,
that.
thank you, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Really great job. Hello, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Lori Stegman. I'm the YFS Director for DCHS, and it is a pleasure to be on this side of the dais. Although it's a little bit hotter on this side. So
Depends on the day.
So today, I want to share not only some data and statistics with you all to highlight YFS's successes, but I also want to share with you what's written in between the presentation that I'll be sharing today. And we received a really lovely testimony from a family of 7 in Banastar. To paraphrase, they wrote, "Our family thanks Banastar and Multnomah County for standing with us. Your help has been awesome. It has uplifted our spirits, motivated us to work even harder, enabled us to save money for a rainy day. Because of this stability, we have 3 children who are now enrolled in college. Thank you for loving us, for sharing with us, and for caring. Your good work has helped our community and enabled us to be our best for others. May God continue to bless you and your staff for all that you have done. We've been blessed with the best people to help us. Because of you, we are now able to pay our rent, grow, and prosper. We appreciate the kindness you have shown us. Thank you for helping our family to stand strong. Love you all from the Takao family." I wish I had a picture. So this testimony is a really powerful reminder of why we do this important work. And you all know it begins with the budgeting process each year that delivers on our county's mission. Next slide, please. So here's a few highlights of how the fiscal year 26 YFS budget will continue to deliver life-changing services for our community, for our most marginalized individuals and families. Under eviction prevention programs and emergency rent assistance, you can see that that will help thousands of families stay housed and prevent them from becoming homeless. And with increasing homelessness, we know that the need continues to be great. The proposed budget investment of $3.5 million of one-time only money in emergency rent assistance and eviction prevention will leverage state funding and will allow us to prevent evictions for an estimated 1,880 households. In the area of energy assistance, we all know the high cost of energy utility. Both PGE and Pacific Power have seen increases of close to 50% in their energy rates since 2020. And we all know what an important role heating and cooling systems play in the health of our residents. When I look back, we all look back on the 21 heat dome event, it highlighted just how susceptible low income and the elderly are to extreme heat. Sadly, most of those 72 people who died were living alone and without air conditioning. That tragedy, however, did prompt the Oregon legislature to pass a law requiring that all new housing include air conditioning. So you can see how important functional utilities are to help families remain stable, help ensure that a young person can learn at home, and keeping an older adult safe. So we will be able to prevent utility shutoffs for about 18,000 households. Increasing food security remains a top priority for YFS, and I know we've talked about a little bit of this, but thinking more about our youth. We know that youth and families, there's far too many of them that go hungry every night, and we know that the cost of food, housing, and other basic needs continues to rise. And we also know that people often have to make choices between putting food on the table or a roof over their head. So to help address this, we have the Sunchild and Family Hunger Relief Programs, which will provide 1.5 million, that's million, meals to children and their families through food pantries and summer meals at our Sun Community Schools. Also, through our Sun Community Schools, we have our Family Resource Navigators, who will continue to serve as a centralized resource for children and families. With your budget approval, we'll be able to serve about 900 families by providing ongoing support, needs assessment, and referrals to many resources like health clinics, mobile dentists, food pantries, including connecting them to the Medicaid 1115 program to help with rent and utility assistance for those who might qualify. Next slide. Here you can see our operating budget and FTE. For fiscal year 26, we have a $91 million budget, which is $6.7 million less than fiscal year 25. We have 103 FTE with a reduction of 17.5 FTE from last year. And if you want to see the specifics, you can find that in the appendix on pages 79 through 81. Next slide, please. So YFS has 4 strategic outcomes. The first is improving the quality of life for consumers at every stage of life by providing intentional services and advocacy. This broad outcome encompasses all the services YFS provides, and this slide highlights just a few. Under DSVCO, which stands for Domestic and Sexual Violence Coordination Office, they deliver crisis and legal services for domestic and sexual violence survivors from all communities, with a focus on underserved populations. I won't read through all the slides, but as you can see, we have a significant impact on our community, with thousands of survivors receiving navigation, support, restraining orders, and support when law enforcement is involved. On the right side of the slide, it shows the work of Bienestar de la Familia, a county program that promotes the well-being of families through services that help increase housing retention and economic stability and promote self-efficacy, prosperity, and success. Next slide, please. The second outcome is improving educational access and support through education programs and resources. We deliver this outcome through our Sun Service system, which provides connections, resources, and community for youth and families. The Sun Service system is a collaboration of the county, city of Portland, 6 school districts, and community organizations. We have 93 community school sites which provide and integrate supports to meet basic needs, provide after-school and summer programs, and engage families to reduce learning barriers. Our Sun Youth Advocacy provides social, emotional, and academic support for youth individually and in small groups, with a focus on middle and high school age students who experience barriers to learning, including chronic absences, racial discrimination, and/or repeated disciplinary actions. Advocates help achieve individual goals that youth set for themselves. It could be getting a passing grade or getting a summer job, all with the ultimate goal of graduating. You can see that in fiscal year 24, SYA advocates served 822 youth, with 99% of those youth making progress toward or achieving their individualized goals by the end of the school year. Next slide, please. The third outcome is increasing economic stability for participants through rent, energy, and food assistance, along with advocacy and case management support. Eviction prevention programs and emergency rent assistance have helped 5,662 families stay housed and prevented them from becoming homeless, with 92% staying in or moving to stable housing when surveyed 12 months after assistance. And most importantly, 86, not most importantly, but one of the things is 86% of them avoided an eviction on their rental record. On the right side of the screen is the energy bill assistance, which I mentioned earlier, and we served 18,193 households, preventing utility shut-off for all of them. Next slide, please. Our final YFS outcome is accessing social services through coordinated access to services that support the diverse needs of our community. YFS is home to several coordinated and collaborative services and partnerships, often acting as a managing partner, which are shown on this slide. So you can see the Gateway Center for Domestic Violence Services, the Sun Service System, the Sexual Assault Unified Response Group, and the Coordinated Emergency Rent Assistance. I want to talk about just a couple of those. So the Gateway Center, it serves as a primary access point for domestic and sexual violence services in the county by providing a wide range of critical services to survivors and their children. There, the Gateway Intake Team coordinates a complex service delivery system consisting of county staff and 16 on-site partners, including civil attorneys, prosecutors, DHS, and 12 nonprofits. They serve as the initial point of contact for every survivor. And this graph shows the number of survivors the intake team supported by fiscal year. And you can see that it averages about 1,000 people per month. Additionally, I want to highlight the amazing work of DSBCO's Sexual Assault Unified Response Group, which launched in December of 23. In its first year of operation, the system dispatched advocates from community-based organizations to support over 500 sexual assault survivors during hospital examinations. This human-centered approach is a national best practice. So, as you can see, DCHS and especially YFS are truly the heart of the county, serving so many individuals and families at all stages of life. That concludes my presentation today. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the incredible work of YFS and its amazing staff. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Mohammed, are you going to go through the, or are you guys going to go through the last slides? Because I think we have about four or five more slides. So why don't we get through those and then we can open it up for questions. All right. Okay, don't forget to turn on your mic.
All right, I'm back. Next slide. Okay. Sorry, I thought we were skipping these. Okay, all right. HRAP, so DCHS and HRAP. As Alexis said earlier, DCHS is not just about getting keys, but keeping keys. So we embody the work we do connected to HRAP in that way. That is how DCHS works with folks who need to stay housed and folks who need to get housed. DCHS is the primary department responsible for keeping people housed, which is a critical part of the continuum of services. Next slide, please, Marina, sorry. In the Homeless Response Action Plan, we are there, as Lori mentioned, when a survivor of domestic or sexual violence is at risk of losing their housing because they live with their abuser and they have nowhere to go. Our DSVCO team steps in to ensure, in addition to all that they will navigate as a result of what they're experiencing, that they won't also become homeless. Domestic violence is the leading cause of homelessness for women. Our housing and stability team, the community-based organizations we partner with, Bienestar de la Familia, provide critical rent assistance for families who are at imminent risk of being evicted due to non-payment as a result of financial hardship. DCHS provides rent assistance and possibly, most importantly, prevents childhood homelessness. Keeping people housed is the least expensive and most effective approach to this work. Eviction prevention is imperative if we want to meet the goals we have as a county and reduce the harm that homelessness has on everyone who calls Multnomah County home. As both Irma and Alexis shared, we also serve folks who are already homeless. DCHS pairs long-term case management and services that are connected to Medicaid and Medicare with our housing programs. We have staff with specific knowledge, skills, and abilities, our KSA positions, to ensure that services are culturally appropriate. Community members who receive services from IDD and ADVSD are often at greater risk for housing instability, even after being housed, and embedding these programs within the lifelong supports that these divisions provide does lead to stronger outcomes related to housing retention. These programs are quite new and are already demonstrating that embedding housing navigation with long-term culturally specific services are paired with ongoing support is the most responsible way to rehouse these consumers while uplifting the concept of one county and no wrong door for the community that we serve. Next slide, please. For some reason, nobody wanted to take the additional issues section. I'm not sure why, it might be the title. If we can go to the next slide. So for DCHS, we've reviewed hundreds of bills this year. We provided feedback on over 300 bills and provided testimony and support for many of those. This has been a very active session. Three in particular that we'll highlight is House Bill 2061, and the primary intent of House Bill 2061 is to study and make recommendations to improve the recruitment and retention of case managers and adult protective service workers who serve individuals receiving Medicaid-funded long-term services in Oregon. So stabilizing the workforce is critical for that work. As I think we mentioned in earlier conversations around, that's been an ongoing conversation. There has been attempts to reduce the workload and work that through. So we're following that closely, and I know that Irma and Alexis have been very involved in that. Senate Bill 149 is an ongoing is ongoing work that relates primarily to folks who have refugee status. There's been a lot of work that the folks that we've been working with in the community provider network that also want to extend those services to folks who don't actually meet refugee status. So extending that to asylum seekers as well. Unclear what will happen with that bill, if it will just end up being more of a continuous study or if there will actually be funding connected to it. And Senate Bill 61, which is establishing the Food for All Oregonians program, which one of the main pieces of that is extending nutrition assistance to children who would qualify for SNAP, but if not for their immigration status. Next slide. As I'm sure you're hearing across the board, there's a lot of concern around the uncertainty as it relates to the federal forecast as well as the state budget. I think we are concerned about the state forecast being $500 million less than anticipated. That leaves a lot of questions for DCHS. One of those areas is OREDAP, or the Oregon Eviction Diversion and Prevention Program rent assistance. We are not sure what that will look like for us. Uncertainty related to HUD. There are already conversations that we're involved in around eligibility requirements related to mixed status households that we're following quite closely and could result in many families losing housing because of their mixed status. And Medicaid, obviously a lot of conversation around Medicaid. FEMA is continuing to be a struggle for us. We were expecting to receive FEMA funds through a grant that the state received, but that did not work out due to an early termination of that. And we also know that that will impact our ability to respond to disasters as well. And food, as has been mentioned in this conversation, continues to be a very big concern for DCHS. We are following the conversations around SNAP, around eligibility, and what that's going to look like with those potential reductions, and just trying to make sure that we can do what we can to support folks that are at the greatest need. I think that's it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think the rest of them are the appendices slides. So yeah, so now any questions on the latest set of slides or on YFS?
I've got a couple. One I just want to name, I'll follow up directly with you. The HUD issue is a big deal, and I think it's important for us as a county to figure out how we can support those households. And I've reached out to Home Forward to have a conversation, but we may have to rethink how we're using other local vouchers to ensure that we don't have families fall into homelessness because of this HUD change in rule. So more to come. I just wanted to name it. I'm very worried about the impact of this program and its impact on increasing trauma for those households.
I'll just tell you that we did start meeting with Home Forward this week, and so we are very involved in that conversation, so we can keep you informed on that as well.
Awesome, thank you. On slide 41 for YFS, what does this 12 months after assistance at the bottom of the slide apply to? I couldn't quite figure out what bubble.
So folks were surveyed after they had been receiving assistance for 12 months. And so basically we wanted to find out who was still housed or not.
So, sorry, so it applies to the 92%? And it's
Well,
fine.
what they're saying, I think, is of the 5,662, 92% of those.
Stayed in or moved to stable housing?
Yes.
That's a little confusing. I'm not clear on what's retention or what's rehousing, and that would be helpful to clarify. Just, again, they're great numbers. I'm just a little confused on that one. And I'd love to know, and maybe this applies because why it says stayed in or moved to, is understanding the difference between your prevention and your placement numbers, and then the retention rates by each of those as well.
Lori, do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead.
This is all eviction prevention, so it's not rehousing. This is all rent assistance to prevent.
Okay,
So the retention is staying in, it's not rehousing, just to clarify for that number.
So then this sentence doesn't make sense, that 92% stayed or moved to stable housing.
Yeah, I think, I understand what you're saying. I think what the intent of that bullet is to say, if they didn't stay in the housing they were in, they made a choice to relocate somewhere that maybe was more affordable for them, but they stayed stably housed overall. So I see
So
how
that's
it's,
placement, not of it. So that would be, that's where the differentiation would be for me, is if they move, that's a new
on
placement.
their own.
Yeah.
Okay.
On slide 39, it has 2,779 people were supported with housing / economic stability. What does that mean?
So Vienna Star provides a lot of different services. Could be employment services, could be rental assistance. After, there's programming for youth, there's music programming. So it really is, economic stability is used in a very larger sense of what do families need that is culturally relevant, culturally specific. It could be mental health. They have counseling sessions. So it's really, what those specific communities need. So it could be a lot of things. And it's centered on what they need.
Yeah, no, that's definitely helpful. It might be helpful to see, I think you probably in your contract have those broken down a little bit more. It would just be helpful to see what some of that looks like.
We can get that.
And then, Mohammed, I'm just going to broadly ask for, because we've heard a lot about cuts to eviction prevention, and it's not just YFS, you have eviction prevention in a lot of places. I would really love to know how much dollars you had in eviction prevention for the whole department in FY25 and how much you have total in the whole department for FY26 proposed.
You bet, we can get that, thank you.
Thank you.
I think Robert is here, he probably writing that down.
Thank you. And this may be longer, so I'm just going to put it out there. I'm a little confused on how all these programs relate together when it comes to the Sun Schools, the Sun Youth Advocacy, the Parent-Child Development, the Family Resource Navigators, and the Successful Families and that transitioning into Sun. It feels really complicated. I know you all can explain it. I know we don't have time, so I'll wait for follow-up, but just wanted to make sure that was on your radar. I'm just trying to figure out. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. I have a whole sheet for you. We got it all ready for you. So
Awesome.
We can send that right out to you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Commissioner Brum Edward.
Great, thank you. Director Stegman, good to have you here. It's been a while. So I had some questions about slide 40, specifically about the SUN program, and then also just connecting to the program offers. So I am wondering if it's possible to get data over time. It's like a couple of years. I'm just interested in that 73% consistently attended school. That number seems really low. That means 25% of the time they weren't consistently attending. So I'd be interested in seeing the programmatic data over a couple of years. And then I noticed in the program offer that the goal for FY 25 was 9,200 students attending, 30 days or more of after-school programming, but that it actually was 6,000, and then this year's target is 6,000. So I'm curious about last year, there was a much higher number, and the actual number was 3,000 less. And so I'm just curious about.
I'll have to follow up with you on, unless I don't know if you know, Rachel.
Microphone.
I missed I missed what you're referring to.
Okay, so the program offer number 25-145, the way I read it is your performance measures, that one of your two performance measures, this is related to number of students who attend 30 days or more of after-school programming. You budgeted for 9,200. It actually was 6,000. It's the FY '25 estimate. And then your target for FY '26 is 6,000. And I'm curious, from '24 to '25, you estimated that it'd be 4,000 more, almost a doubling of students meeting that metric. And actually it was only 6,000. And then again, this year it's set for 6,000. So I'm curious.
We will get back to you, yeah, with specifics on that, yeah.
And so sort of a follow-up question is then when I went down into the funding this year, it looks like, although there isn't a significant increase, I mean, it's almost, it's like 80 students difference, but you've allocated $2 million more in general fund. I mean, so a pretty significant increase is going from 8.9 million to 11.5. So serving the same amount of students with a lower goal, but with $2 million more.
So I want to be clear, there was a lot of work that went into what was going to be happening next year with the SUN program. There was actually a funders table that was set to have these conversations over a lot of time. And there was also a wage study done to look at the amount of the wages that were provided to our contracted services and some of the difficulties that were arising in terms of ability to fill positions, to keep people in those positions because of the wages. And so there was a decision made by the SUN School Funder Board to really invest in increasing wages for those contracted employees in this next RFP process and for the next year's SUN program. So that is what you're seeing in terms of the increase for that.
Yeah, I'd like to see the details, just we're in a budget constraints for our own employees, and just it would be good to see what went into that. And the other thing I'm curious about is I understand the city reduced their funding for SUN, and like, are we making up for the city reducing their funds? So I'd just like more information, because it looks like we're not serving more students and actually having the second measurement is lower. So just the data on that. Then this is more of a cross-department question, I guess, and you all can come back later to answer it. But in program offer 25146, the SUN Community Schools Family Resource Navigators, it looks like this is a one-time only funding. This is where it looks like the ARP interest landed, the 1.6 million. So it's one-time funding. And when I read through this, it just looks like somewhat like what our homeless services department is doing. So I'm just curious about coordination and how it all fits together.
So, Commissioner, the Family Resource Navigators are situated in the SUN schools, so they're really geared to serve the families and the youth that are attending the SUN program versus out in the general population.
Right, but the general population includes the SUN families, and I'm just looking here in the description, it's support families in achieving economic security with a focus on improving housing stability by reducing barriers to navigating systems. This is again just how are we as a one Multnomah County showing up?
I mean, I don't think there isn't really a wrong door. Like, anybody, you can self-refer to many of these programs, but just because it's kind of a centralized location where we have, so certainly people could get services elsewhere, but this is where we already have, SUN site schools where people have relationships.
I guess the part
Do you want me to add to that? Because there was some, in this last year, the school districts actually reached out to Homeless Services Department asking for additional support, being able to connect families to things like rent assistance. It's a challenge in the like saturation of how many people are trying to access rent assistance to truly determine who's at the greatest risk, imminent risk of being evicted. And so we worked with Lori and her team around the Family Resource Navigators being something that's been very beneficial. We reduced the number and actually increased a direct rent assistance component for the Family Resource Navigators to work with the Medicaid 1115 team so that they have better access to actually preventing childhood homelessness, which has been sort of a challenge. And we're working very closely with the Homeless Services Department around to ensure that like these processes make sense and are embedded.
I don't have any issue with having something embedded in the SUN program. It's just, it's one-time money, and I'm looking at when the one-time money goes away. There'll still be individuals needing support. And then again, usually in systems, having sort of integrated and aligned systems is what most efficiently and most from a cost effectiveness standpoint and effectiveness happens. So I'm curious, and I don't know whether I need to ask the Homeless Services Department about that or for a coordinated answer. I'd like to see the coordination, because if there's not one-time money again next year, those families will still need to be served some other way.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure it's clear. These are emergency rental assistance dollars to help prevent folks from becoming homeless. So it's not, they're not necessarily like then going to be receiving, rental assistance month after month after month long term. These are really to help prevent children in schools and their families from becoming homeless.
This says it's to pay for navigators.
That's part of the dollars.
Yeah, moving towards a hub model for Family Resource Navigators. So reducing the number, but making sure that, because I think one of, as sort of resources are reduced, it's difficult when people are trying to navigate to what, right, is that question, and ensuring that they have the ability to intervene, and like school counselors, site managers, Family Resource Navigators are able to sort of identify families that we think are at the greatest risk for eviction, which is really DCHS, that's we are in the eviction prevention realm. And so connecting them to that, I think also connecting them to this waiver, which is temporary. I think that's part of to what you're speaking to, Commissioner, around the fact that this is one time only. We also know that the Medicaid 1115 waiver is time limited. And so using this as like a pilot to see how that we get the full amount possible and support as many people as we can while we have access to that waiver, and connecting these families to that waiver team. And also if they don't qualify, or what we found, because it takes quite a bit of time to get through the eligibility process, they're right on the verge, we can support them with a couple of months of rent assistance so they don't then become evicted, because what we know about the waiver is it's tied to an address and a landlord. If they become evicted while waiting, they no longer are eligible. So we are in the sense of kind of aligned with what I think you're asking. Oops, sorry. That's I don't know how to talk without my hands. Aligning things so that they are more coordinated and that they can be more effective, combining the resources that do exist so more people can be served. So I do think it might be a broader conversation, and we do want to talk to you more about the waiver, which so we haven't been able to have that conversation with you yet. So I do think that it might help to have a deeper understanding of what we're trying to do here with the resources we have right now.
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I look at this program offer, it looks like it's all contractual service, not actually, I don't see emergency rent assistance in this program offer. It looks like it's for the navigators, right? Like actually contracted service for navigators? That's what it looks like anyway.
Yeah, it is split. So there's navigators and there is about, almost $1 million of rent assistance. So it is both. So, and maybe we will relook at that program offer, because we certainly don't want program offers to be confusing.
It says there's $3 million. We can follow up, but it says there's $3 million, but it's been reduced to $2 million. And so you're saying but it says for contractual services, you're saying that part of that actually is rent assistance in that program offer?
Yes.
Okay. So it's just bundled into, the rent assistance isn't broken out, it's just bundled into the contractual service.
Yeah, it's making sure that there's rent assistance that's specifically able to support families who are connected to our SUN school districts. which is meeting the requests of the schools and ensuring that we're able to prevent childhood homelessness, which is a critical concern for us at DCHS with the kind of landscape that we're seeing right now with inflow.
Okay, and I'm just going to do a quick time check for, we need to move on to.
That was my last question, but I'm going to send you the sheet to just better understand, because it looks like it's just contractual services, not rent assistance.
Okay, thank you. Just two questions. Program offer for the peer navigators and the eviction prevention support. Could you just share how did we land on reducing those services?
I'm going to defer that to Rachel since I wasn't actually part of that process.
Your question is why we ended up reducing the two that we did.
Yeah, why and how?
Yeah,
Dr. Carlos
I
mentioned
think-
just the equity, the process that we went through.
Yeah, and I think one of our budget approaches was ensuring that we are really focusing on what our core responsibilities services are, and the peer navigator program is great, and it doesn't necessarily fully align with DCHS's like core services. So in making really hard decisions, we had to put things up that are difficult to reduce and have value, but don't necessarily align with the work that we do. And then eviction prevention, our concern right now is with having very little emergency rent assistance available and that reducing. It's very difficult to get someone out of a non-payment eviction without rent assistance. And so if we have to make sure that those investments are proportional to what we have available with rent assistance, and essentially as a county are going to have to look to be more upstream in how we prevent evictions if we aren't going to have enough rent assistance, because paying for both legal services and rent is challenging.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
And then final question is just with the program offer, the fair housing testing in East Multnomah County. Never heard of it, but what's that?
Well, there just really wasn't fair housing testing done in East County. It
Yeah.
was done elsewhere, but it was not done in East County. So unfortunately, we had to cut it because we don't have the funding to do it.
I think, thank you for asking that question. I think this is another place that I have some concern about the federal rollbacks around fair housing testing. And so I know you all had to make some difficult decision, but this is one I'd love to keep talking with you about and hear from you all. I think it's important that one part of the county isn't just not served, particularly when I think we were thinking we could rely on other programs, and now those have been cut at the federal level.
Those are my questions, and thank you.
I will tell you, the number one call Disability Rights Oregon gets is related to housing discrimination.
All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate that. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought we were going this way, but maybe. Okay.
Well, we skipped me. I actually just have one, well, I also don't understand all the sudden changes, so if I could get that, and I'm visual, so narratives are hard for me. We serve 18,000 low-income households with energy assistance. What is the estimated need?
That's a great question, Commissioner. I don't know. I'm not sure how we count that. It's huge. I mean, we don't have enough money to pay to give everybody, and there's limits. That the average is about $500, and I think you can only apply for it once per calendar year. So there are definitely, it's not, I think City of Gresham used to do it too, but yeah, it's very, very limited. So there's a huge need.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm ready. Thank you so much. We're looking to bring back the preschool and early learning division, since we did not get to them next. There they are. Thank you for sitting so patiently in the audience. For next Thursday, the 29th, that afternoon, we have an hour set aside for follow-up, and so we'll invite them to come back then. So appreciate that, and apologies that, well, I'm not going to apologize. These were good questions that got asked. Yeah, I'm like, that's just it. That's just how it is. But I do appreciate everybody's recognition that we needed to make sure that our that we were able to get to ICS in a timely manner because we do have folks who are made some time and took off work to be here for this budget presentation, and I want to make sure that we're respecting that. So at this point, I would invite our health department and ICS folks down. We are going to be moving on to integrated clinical services. I know. Rachel's fourth appearance, fifth appearance, what are we at now? Hello. Yeah, so thanks everyone for being here. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear from our integrated clinical services team as well as our community health center board this afternoon. I think this is the first time that this new board is getting a chance to really hear about this work. So Rachel, I think I'm handing it over to you to start things off.
Thank you, Chair Vega Peterson. Good afternoon, Commissioner Singleton, Commissioner Julie Grimm Edwards, and Commissioner Jones Dixon, and where
people will be coming
back. Yeah. As we said yesterday at the health department, we fully support people taking care of themselves, water, stretching, and all of the things. It's great to be back here with you all again. I think this is the 5th time. For the record, my name is Rachel Banks, and I use she, her, and hers. And I am joined by our Health Center Board Chair, Tamia Deary, Anirudh Padamala, the Interim Executive Director of the Health Center, and Darrell Wade, did I get that right? The Health Center Board Treasurer, who are going to be telling you all about the fabulous work that they lead as the Health Center Board. But I just want to acknowledge, as you may be aware, we've had some recent leadership changes in a variety of places in the health department, including integrated clinical services. So excited to welcome Anirudh in to the role as the executive director of the integrated clinical services. You're going to be hearing more this afternoon, again, from the board and the work that they do at the health center. And I just want to say that the Health Center Board, the Health Center is operated through both the leadership of and the partnership of the Community Health Center Board through a co-applicant agreement, which you'll hear more grounding up. And of course, we're happy in other venues to share more about what that looks like. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Anirudh.
All right, thanks, Rachel.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi, Chair, and hi, Commissioners. My name is Anirudh. I use he, him pronouns, and 17 days into the role as the Interim Executive Director, but I have been with the Health Center for about 4.5 years and with the Health Department in several roles through that time. So what I am going to do today is talk a little bit about actually one slide back. Thank you. Here, this is our agenda today. We're going to talk about our board, the Health Center overview, some of the budget and major investments. You're going to hear some specific language that is HRSA language, such as special populations, program requirements. It is just based on that language, along with our strategy and policy director. Adrian will talk about the local and federal legislative issues, and hopefully we'll have time for questions at the end, but then also through the presentation. As a grounding, I want to talk about our health center operates as a public entity, which means that the governing board, the Community Health Center Board, shares responsibility with Multnomah County Board of County Commissioners as part of that co-applicant structure. The Health Center Board provides fiscal and strategic oversight for services, assuring that investments and services meet the needs of our patient population, and the health center budget is overseen by the Community Health Center Board, and it is incorporated into the full Multnomah County budget process. The Community Health Center Board has provided extensive input and approved the fiscal year 26 budget. With that, I will hand off to the Community Health Center Board Chair, Tamia Deary.
Welcome and good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It's nice to see all of you today. I apologize, my voice isn't very strong. We just returned from a conference in Anchorage and did a lot of talking, so I might have to actually use this. And generally, I don't have trouble projecting. I'm Tamia Deary. My pronouns are she and they. I've been on the board since 2019, and I've been the chair since January of 2024. I am excited to be here today to present our budget to you, and I wanted to start by saying, you know, Chair, in your executive message for the budget, you mentioned that the county's work is vital to the well-being of our community. The Health Center's brand new purpose, vision, and value statements reflect that alignment. The work of our health center plays a key role in the well-being of our community. HRSA requires that all federally qualified health centers have a patient majority governing board that provides governance, sets the vision and values, determines the scope of services, and approves the budget and policies. Our Community Health Center board is currently made up of 66% patient board members, and I am a consumer chair. We are rooted in our communities, representing a wide variety of lived experiences. We are passionate about advocacy, healthcare, social needs, and are very, very strong supporters of the health center movement. Next slide, please. The CHCB began work on the fiscal year 26 budget with health center leadership in November. And I want to say, our patient majority board spent 2 full Saturdays working on our strategic planning and budget priorities for a total of about 17 hours. So even though we're an unpaid volunteer board, we are dedicated to doing the work necessary to make sure that the budget that we provide for you has a lot of thought behind it. The health center operates as a co-applicant structure. The Community Health Center Board provides fiscal strategic oversight and sets the vision and North Star. I just jumped all the way back, so sorry. One more time from the top. We have built on the foundation of the extensive staff engagement that happened in October. The CHCB reviewed early strategic priorities, considered staff feedback, patient care needs, utilization of services, and contractual obligations as part of the coordinated care organization contracts. This was important as the health center is fully funded by the health center revenue and doesn't receive any county general funds. After extensive discussions, the CHCB approved the fiscal year 26 budget for the health center in April at our April public meeting. I will turn it over to Darrell.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Multnomah County Commissioners and Chairs. My name is Darrell Wade, and I am the Treasurer and Finance Committee Chair. My pronouns are he and him. I am also a consumer board member at the North Portland Clinic located in St. John's. All right. Let's see.
Next slide.
As the governing board, we are committed to ensuring that the health center functions as a stable, oh, I'm sorry, on the top as.
We're all tired from Anchorage.
As Churchman said, this represents this slide. This slide does 2 things. 1 reflects our board priorities, and 2 shows a breakdown of how operating a budget of $216.8 million goes into programming and other investments. This represents the CHCB's vision for the health center, where we invest in our staff and take it one step further by developing the workforce of the future, where we build on the foundation of our current programs and make additional investments in integrated behavioral health, primary care, dental, and pharmacy services, where we invest in technology through the EPIC transformation project that would set up the health center for success by ensuring We are doing everything to secure our patients' data, reduce avoidable write-offs. Current year, 24, 1.4 million, and improve staff experience of the bread and butter of the business system, of our business system. The CHCB, right there? Okay.
Thank you, Darrell.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you sharing those priorities, and I would just like to say that I really look forward to working in partnership with you, JVP, in order to sign a contract and kick off our EHR project in fiscal year 26. The EHR project is a critical piece of infrastructure that we need in order to be in compliance. Protecting our patients' private health information has never been as critical as it is in this moment, especially if you've had a chance to look over the big, beautiful budget that passed last night. So we will be making this the #1 priority of our board and making sure this work moves forward in this current fiscal year. Thank you so much. You know what? I mean, why not just lean in?
Next slide, please. Thank you.
As the governing board, we are committed to ensuring that the health center functions as a stable source that communities can serve, that our communities serve, look to. Our work is not only impactful, but it's profound, and we intend to build on that legacy through fiscal year 26 budget investments. Our goals are to provide stability and support to our workforce by continuing to invest in workforce development pathways. We are going to not just maintain our current services, but also make additions to our services and improve access. Through investments, particularly in technology, we're committed to address inefficiencies in the wake of uncertainties at the federal level. And I want to hand it off to Honoru.
All right, thank you. Next slide, please, and one more. So the Community Health Center Board, in partnership with the senior leadership team of the Health Center, renewed our mission, vision, and values to be our purpose, vision, values. And if you visit, or when you visit one of our health center sites, shortly you will see these at our health center locations. But today I will read our vision statement, which is that we envision that all people in our community receive reliable, high quality, inclusive, and comprehensive healthcare. And as the steering committee, when we were developing this, the focus was on all people, ensuring that we work with all people in our community, and we are communicating in clear language that we are here to provide reliable, high quality, inclusive, and comprehensive services to our patients. That was the vision of the Community Health Center Board for us. Next slide, please. So this is, in the last 17 days, I've been using the term partnerships quite a bit, rightfully so, because I sincerely believe that our success is rooted in just that, partnerships. As we're looking at this slide, our success is built on the foundation of strong partnerships, and together we are achieving remarkable outcomes for our patients, guided by the visionary North Star of our Community Health Center Board, fueled by the collaboration with our communities, amplified through advocacy and opportunities to collaborate with state and federal partners, and driven by the dedicated staff across all our health center locations. I know that we are making a profound impact. And as you can see, at the center of it all is our patients, and their well-being is our commitment. I will give that to you. Next slide, please.
Our health centers, our health center by the numbers, we're proud to say that we dispensed 430,000 prescriptions, answered 268,000 calls through our Patient Access Center, and through our mobile van and clinic served 800 patients and completed 1,237 visits where they were located.
Blessing.
Next slide, please. So here, there's a little bit more information. Collectively, we serve about 60,000 patients, and 95% of our patient clients are within the 200% of federal poverty level. 10% of our patients identify as LGBTQIA+. 45% of our patients prefer to speak a non-English language, and 88% of our patients rely on public insurance programs, the Medicaid, Oregon Health Plan. Next slide, please. So as you can see, our services are across the Multnomah County region. These are our brick and mortar locations. You can see all the way from downtown to North Portland to Southeast to Central Mid-County area to the East County. We are everywhere. And in addition to that, we serve more locations, which will be on the next slide here shortly, through our mobile medical van, Wheelie McKeely. Next slide, please. That's right. We also name cool things. We also have some cool names. So these are some of our locations served by Wheelie McKeely. That's right. I want to take a moment to call out that our mobile medical van added behavioral health services and medication for opioid use disorders as part of the grant that we received. I think I'm going to make you all super happy today with some of the follow-ups from all the questions that you had, setting the bar high for myself. So we received the grant from Health Resources and Services Administration. The grant focuses on increasing the number of patients receiving MOUD. Next slide, please. All right, with all of that foundation, the next few slides will talk about and highlight the work that our health center teams do based on the vision and prioritization by the Community Health Center Board. As we do this work, we are firmly focused on what's called the quintuple aim, which is enhancing patient experience, improving population health, reducing costs, supporting care team well-being, and driving sustainable improvements. In fiscal year 26, the health center's operating budget is $216.8 million, and we have 723.53 FTE. In addition to that, the health center also has reserves and contingency of $83.6 million. A little bit about the reserves and contingency, per the Community Health Center Board approved health center policy, the $83.6 million represents about 4 months of our operating reserves. The policy states a minimum of 3 months, but in practice, we hold 4 months. And then the contingency fund allows us to do capital planning and investments, again, into the priorities set by the Community Health Center Board. Next slide, please. All right, so in this slide, as we talk for the next few minutes here, the entirety of our budget focuses on these 3 pillars that you're seeing. We are investing in and building the next generation of our workforce. And we are also ensuring that our medical home remains strong, but then also reinvesting back into our patients so that we can not just provide access to the existing patients, but then also make improvements to our access by serving more clients, because we all know the need is there in the community. Next slide, please. All right, this is where the fun bragging comes to place. So this slide is an example of our advanced practice clinicians or practitioners. So this is one of our workforce development programs that helps us build the next generation of primary care clinicians. The cool thing about the advanced practice clinician program is that it allows us to hire our APCs as fellows, which gives them advanced learning time, but then also they don't come with an existing panel, so that means we are addressing client needs as they come. So this really improved our retention rates, but then also allowed us to help more patients and clients. As you can see, some of the success there in year one, I believe it was 2023. I can't do backward math. We had about 5 fellows with 100% retention rate. They all work at our health center right now. In year 2, we had about 4 fellows, and 3 of them are with us. And then finally, this is this year where we have 6 APC fellows that are in progress. And then next slide, please. In addition to the wonderful APC program, the Health Center also launched workforce development programs for our enhanced expanded function dental assistants, medical assistants, and pharmacy technicians. This is another part of the care teams and the investments that we are making. I want to take a moment to give a special shout out to our dental team that is creatively partnering with Portland Community College, OHSU, and has some student rotations. I don't want to read all of the numbers out here, but then we have, through our many different pathways, we had over 200 student rotations through our clinics. Next slide, please. So this is one of the concepts that I introduced as the 3 pillars, which is supporting the medical home model. So at the health center, we talk quite a bit about a team-based care model. It's essentially centering, taking care of the client around a team of staff instead of just the medical provider. This allows us to ensure that ensure that we are matching the patient with care teams who are experts in medical, social, and cultural needs. And then I have a special highlight here around our Mid-County Health Center. They introduce specific case management education and navigator roles in 2024. And this slide also talks a little bit about the work that the health center does in collaboration with public health, environmental health program, but then also OHA. I know the public health director came here and talked about lead poisoning and screening. This is some of the work that the health center leads for the health center population. So we had Perry from Environmental Health. That's the collaboration. He did the training at the health center. And also we had Ryan Barker from Oregon Health Authority's lead poisoning prevention program. So super exciting to come here and talk about all the great things that the health center does in collaboration with not just the health department programs, but then also across the state. Next slide, please. So this is one of the other important things that we think about as we support our the patient population is we have dedicated teams that provide preventative care screenings and social needs screening for our patients even before they step foot into the clinic. So we have something called a symptom screen for our call center where staff help non-licensed staff know because of the symptom screen, they know what questions to ask the patients so that they know when to elevate a call to the nurse and time sensitive, depending on the time sensitivity of the symptoms. And then Commissioner Singleton, you had asked a question around like, do programs screen for housing status? Yes, at the health center we do. We have something called, based on the HRSA uniform data systems, measurement systems, we have screening questions. There's like a broad definition. I'm happy to share that with you. So we are 3.4% of our patient population out of, these are all UDS numbers, 1,872 of our patients identify with unstably housed category out of a total 54,930 patients. That is the UDS numbers. Okay, next slide, please. And this is that language that I was talking about at the start is the special populations. It's the HRSA, Health Resources and Services Administration terminology. As you can see, we serve clients and patients living with HIV, clients and patients living, experiencing homelessness, in addition to that, refugee and asylee population. So we are known and recognized as a local leader in our Rapid Start program. Our Health Services Center clinic does a community of practice that benefits programs across Oregon, as well as precepting Rapid Start across Mountain West. We also have Aging with HIV program. In addition, we also have clients participating in the long-acting injectable Cabenova, resulting in better adherence and clinical outcomes. And then finally, you all know that the Health Services Center works very closely with the Public Health HIV Grant Administration and planning teams, and by providing the on-the-ground care delivery and data reporting, the HIV Health Services Center works really close with the Public Health STI program and the disease intervention specialist to connect newly diagnosed clients to care and services. This is something that the Public Health Director has talked about. 20% of the new diagnoses happening through the STI clinic. We work very close with that program. And then another special population that we serve is our clients experiencing homelessness. We have added pharmacy navigator roles to address specific gaps in medication adherence, but then also to improve patient wellness. We also expanded our West Side Pharmacy and adherence package. Again, another invite to come check us out when you're able to. And then also our mobile van locations, as we talked about in the previous slide, we are very intentional in how we choose our partner sites, and because it's the mobile medical van and we're taking care to where our clients are, it addresses some of our homeless neighbors' needs. And then finally in this slide is our refugee and asylee patients. We have culturally specific case management, navigation support, as is in the case of the lead prevention example in the previous slide. But then also, as I mentioned, is the collaboration between public health teams in Health Department and Oregon Health Authority. And then another piece, which is supporting our patients and screening for substance use disorders. The health center screens all patients ages 12 and above for substance use disorders annually, and we provide care to those clients according to those screening needs. And then the health center also began rolling out extended release buprenorphine, English not my first language. Health center registered nurses were trained in extended release administration and medication management. Also through the opioid funds, we recently purchased naloxone. This will be distributed to the health center staff who voluntarily choose to respond to the overdose incidents in the community, as well as for our student health centers to distribute naloxone in schools. And then also, this is something that Tony Gaines talked about in his presentations around coordination between Corrections Health and the health center. We recently received a grant that would allow us to work closely with Corrections Health to prevent gaps in care, addressing some of the most critical needs among our justice-involved population. These services include reducing risk for drug overdose as it addresses mental health and substance use disorder treatment services. And then also, Commissioner Moyer, you had asked behavioral health around like reimbursement pieces of it. I think that's like a little bit of a complex question that we are probably happy to work with behavioral health.
I just have to interject, you're underselling how amazing the mobile medical van is. When we lost that for a while, it was devastating to the community. And I just really appreciate the work to get that back and get that service back out to people.
Yeah, I think single-handedly, mobile van saw 800 patients that, in addition to the clients that we typically see. So really proud of it. And all of that happened in a year. Last year from January 21st through December 31. So we're really proud of our mobile medical van and Ryan Linsky and the entire mobile medical van team. Okay, next slide, please. All right, in alignment with what the Community Health Center Board Chair outlined and building on the foundation that we spoke about, we added about 30.87 FTE to our staffing. I think when you look at the number of people in the 30.87, it comes out to 48.8, but then not everybody is 1.0, so it's that's what you see reflected. And some of our fiscal year 26 goals are increasing behavioral health access. That is one of the core priorities for the Community Health Center Board, is to ensure that we have more behavioral health access. And then also, Wheelie McHealy that I had mentioned previously, continuing to serve behavioral health population through that. And then also this is one of the things that we have done as a health center is investing back into the frontline positions where we increase the ratio of provider to medical assistants. It used to be 1-to-1 and I believe it's 1-to-1.5. All right, I got my numbers right. And these are all medical assistant positions. So out of the 30.87, majority of them are medical assistant FTE. We are also intending to improve our pharmacy through our Fernhill Pharmacy, and the Cully neighborhood is known to be a pharmacy desert. So taking pharmacy services there, but then also assuring the visibility and awareness of our 340B savings. I will read one quote, not all of the quotes. So this is from our patient surveys where one of the clients said that the dental assistant who saw me was very kind. I do not like going to the dentist. I have a lot of anxiety. It's hard for me to deal with that. And she was very kind. She helped me stay calm. So these are some of the stories that really make our day as we read them. Next slide, please. Additionally, some of our additional fiscal year 26 investments go into wraparound and navigation services, allows for social drivers of health screening through our amazing community health worker teams. And then also it builds on additional staff support to help support the screening of social drivers of health through our teams at Patient Access Center, referral specialists, and so on. Next slide, please. And then this is something around our strategic goals, especially around capital planning. One of the key strategic priorities for the Health Center Board, again, is a time-bound evaluation of our needs at Mid-County Health Center. And as Tamia would like to say, expedite, expedite, expedite. So in fiscal year 26, the Health Center is proposing investments to continue to evaluate community and patient needs to help understand what the future building and services need to be. Based on this evaluation, there will be a plan that will be created for a capital expansion, potentially in the upcoming fiscal years, and executing on that plan. This work is going to be done in collaboration with our Department of County Assets and several stakeholders across the health department and the county. Next slide, please. So this is our patient assignments with the amazing Medicaid expansion that we have in Oregon. We continue to see our assignments from the coordinated care organizations rise. And one of our goals for this budget is improving access to existing patients while also adding capacity for new patients. We are continuously monitoring what's going on with the Medicaid. However, I think there's a lot of work that we're doing in collaboration and coordination. I think there are certain things that we could do operationally to figure out what we can do to ensure that we're capturing the revenue and billing through some of the sliding fee scale and other options. But then I think one of the things that I want to highlight is with this assignment also comes expectations from Care Oregon and Trillium to see these clients and their specific obligations that we have that contractual responsibilities to the assigned patients and that we need to function within the scope of the health center to provide primary care, integrated behavioral health, pharmacy, and dental services. Next slide, please. Okay. In the fiscal year 26, access to services is a key part of our focus, while also meeting some of the obligations that I spoke about with our coordinated care organizations, and then also the payment model in the landscape is transforming to be value-based care to account for the overall care that is delivered to the client. So what that requires us to do is invest in specific programming that allows us to have touch points with the client to ensure that the costs to the system are low. That means revenue back to the health center. And then ultimately, it's about right care at the right time in a way that the patient wants to receive them. So this is where the patient experience comes into play and their interactions with the healthcare team. Okay, next slide. All right. Out of every slide, I think this is my favorite slide because this really talks about the 360 engagement that we had as part of our budget process. As Tamia had talked about engagement with our staff in October, this is a representation of a robust process we followed through the vision of our Community Health Center Board, but then also guidance of our former interim executive director, Jenna, and then stewardship of Adrian, who is here. We had a 360 engagement in our budget process. Our budget investments are centered in our staff feedback. Staff wanted investment into direct services, expanding patient outreach, and investments into the workforce, which all of which we were able to do. And then what then happened after the October feedback is our leadership team at the clinics looked at the data in collaboration with our finance team. Special shout out to Hassan, who's also here, and reviewed our forecasted patient needs and changes to the regional needs. Some of the questions that we asked during this process are, what changes have we experienced this year? What else could change? And are there any new state and federal requirements? Obviously, those evolved since the time that we created this budget, but we are agile, so we will work accordingly. Our clinic leadership teams then proposed some positions and service line changes. Then we went back to data a second time to look at how do we make decisions. And then all of these recommendations were summarized and presented to the Community Health Center Board as part of the 17 hours of strategic planning and budget development. And then the Community Health Center Board, being the patient majority board, also brought their experience as patients within our system and community. I strongly believe that the final budget is a representative of that voice of the patients of the health center. And then in addition to some of the things that I've talked about, as we considered any new positions, we approached it with intention to make sure that all the dollars that we are capturing is going back into the patient and community services. I have talked about the medical assistants and some of the case navigation pharmacy roles that we have added. And then also, we're investing into the workforce development programs that train members of our community that in turn deliver services to the health center patient. That is the Community Health Center model. In the next slide. So we've talked about the budget. So this is that visual representation, $216.8 million operational budget, and total budget of $300.4 million, including contingencies and reserves. Next slide, please. More of that breakdown. Thank you to the budget team for this slide. I had already talked about the reserves. So next slide. More information around like how it breaks down and year-over-year growth, including the operational budget and our full FTE staff. Next slide, please. So this slide is, you see the color difference and wonder why that is. It is because in 2023, we moved to what's called the Enterprise Fund. That is the FQHC only fund. This happened in fiscal year 2023, and it was a result of a HRSA compliance finding, followed by extensive work between the health center, central finance, and health department finance teams. Next slide, please. More information and detailed breakdown. So as you can see here, our primary increases are driven by increases in contractual services, materials and supplies, personnel costs, and finally, internal services. And then our materials and supplies line item has our pharmaceutical supplies, and we've seen tremendous increases there year over year. Next slide, please. So we, actually one back. Okay, the slide that I'm seeing here may have been moved. So one of the things around our FTE increase, it has been an incremental approach. We didn't want to take like a jump to the, like adding more FTEs. We've really looked at our value-based care, the work that we need to do there, and strategically invested positions that would allow us to be successful in some of those contractual obligations. Next slide, please. So this is another visual representation. Pharmacy is large because of the pharmaceutical costs, and primary care, 70 million, dental, 33 million, the administration is about 23 million, health center operations is 13, our HIV clinic is about $9 million, student health center is also 9 million, and primary care administration and support is 4 million, quality compliance is 4 million, and our lab program is another $2 million. With that, I will hand off to Adrian.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
For the record, my name is Adrienne Daniels. I'm the Strategy and Policy Director for the Health Center, and I'm here to share just a short update on the legislative areas that we're following.
Could you just move the microphone closer? That one's a little weak. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. We can move to the next slide. I'm just going to do a brief overview of the state and federal areas of interest, which we're closely following related to health center services. So certainly on the state side, working very closely with the government relations team and the health department policy team around tracking an assortment of bills this session that will impact types of care patients receive or the way that care is provided. There's a few bills in particular around pharmacy protections that would have a direct impact on our operations, but we're not projecting major impacts on budget. These would allow us to likely increase the access points for our patients by working with contract pharmacies across the city and county. And another one would allow us to use a neutral clearinghouse, which would act as a protection and safeguard against 340B medication savings to assure to the state and to other agencies that those savings really are being passed along to patients as well as used in alignment with the 340B program. There's several other policy proposals the state is currently considering. However, given the latest state forecast, we are unfortunately not expecting these to be high priority. However, we work closely supporting expansions of programs for dental sealants in schools, as well as other oral health activities, increasing reimbursement for school-based health programs in alignment with inflation rates and other similar grants of that nature. But unfortunately, we're expecting those to not come to fruition this session. On the federal side, definitely nothing exciting happening here. We can go to the next slide. I'm sure you've heard throughout your week and month about the multiple ways Multnomah County is impacted by federal policy. Sorry, can we move to the next slide? And certainly we're impacted by this. I want to talk about it from two angles. The first is what we're just describing as organizational changes. Currently, the Health Resources and Services Agency is aligned with other agencies that provide direct health services with mental health support and primary care support. There's a proposal to reorganize that under the Administration for a Healthy America, which would split several of those divisions apart. And while the health center program is currently projected to remain intact, we would expect there to be some differences in how we receive clinical guidance from the CDC or around best practice research for populations living with HIV or having other specialty healthcare needs. We've already seen reductions in workforce as well around technical assistance from our federal grants office, which we would anticipate to continue over the next year. On the policy side, certainly there's a lot of changes to Medicaid that we've just seen come through around how states can receive reimbursement. One of the important pieces that I want to highlight in our proposed budget for this next year is we've really intentionally maintained our insurance and eligibility support teams, given the amount of change that we've seen happen at the state level and expanding different types of Medicaid programs, but then also at the federal level, where we are expecting to see new eligibility check requirements and certainly different types of questions that patients are going to be expected to answer and how frequently. So this is going to become a really important team for us this next year in working closely with our state partners on how we can maintain enrollment for anyone who is eligible for care. We're also closely watching how the courts play out certain policies around gender-affirming care and access to services for reimbursement that had previously been allocated. While we don't receive a lot of direct federal grant funding, 88% of our budget is largely tied up in the direct Medicaid program. And so how the state of Oregon also makes decisions around reimbursement and matching programs will have a large impact on our services, likely over the next 18 months. I think I pass it back to you for questions.
Yeah, thank you. Before we fully go into the questions, I want to do my thank you one more time to acknowledge the work that has gone into this budget. And I want to give my special thanks to our voluntary board that spent 17 hours strategic planning with the Health Center leadership team. Also, to Jenna Green. Jenna, hi, if you're watching us. And also thank you to Adrian, Debbie Powers, Hassan Bader, and the entire senior leadership team supporting our community health center t-shirts. Really, again, really excited and happy to be here talking about our budget, bragging about our health center.
Thank you all for being here, and thanks for such a thorough presentation. Again, like we have so many new board members that I think it's important to get an understanding of an overview of all the work that happens and the relationship between the board and the Community Health Center board and the work that happens at our integrated clinical services team. So just appreciate that. I'll just open it up to the board for any questions in the presentation. Hey, Commissioner Jones-Dixon.
Yeah, just one question. Where can we get one of those t-shirts? No other questions.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? Commissioner Broome, go ahead.
Okay.
Commissioner.
You guys mentioned it's a board priority to expand behavioral health services. In that conversation, what were some of the priorities specifically related to behavioral health? Like, what would you like to see?
That's a great question. So what we actually did as a board is say that we would like to support any expansion of behavioral health that you would like to see, because, you know, the behavioral health people are the experts, and we know that across not just our health center, but our entire community, the need is there. So how can we support you? And for this particular budget, they said that they had all of the expansion that they needed to do thoughtfully. And so we're going to revisit it in the next fiscal year and continue to prioritize expansion.
I love that. I'm thrilled. One of the conversations I'm really interested in us having is having a conversation of the advantage of a federally qualified health center as the provider versus having it a contracted service and billing CCOs that way. Maybe if you could tell us, what are the benefits of having a federally qualified health center model versus just like traditional fee-for-service billing of a CCO or the health authority?
Yeah, I have a two-part response to that.
I love a two-part response.
I think one of the key pieces about it is for it to be that federally qualified health center model, it's what's called the in-scope services. So these are some of the programs that need to be part of the health center scope, need to be part of the oversight of the health center executive director. So that's one part of it. And then the second part, just the simplistic answer around it is as a health center, we have the enhanced PPS rates. I think this is going to be something that we have to navigate with care and nuance because of all the federal administration changes. So sitting here, as exciting as it sounds, I am also very cautious about saying, like, let's jump on that bandwagon. So what we can commit to doing is a careful and a thoughtful evaluation to ensure that as we are trying to address other needs, the health center is sustainable, the medical home model is sustainable, and we are not inadvertently causing any of the harm. So three-part response.
Yeah, the reason why I harp on this to everyone's annoyance.
Not mine. Yeah.
It is. It's a lot. There's a lot there.
We will always have a conversation. How about that?
Is in general, the Medicaid reimbursement methodology is a belief that you can pay 70% of cost because your providers have a payer mix and they're getting above cost for privately insured individuals, which I think in and of itself is a little bit flawed. It's certainly flawed in Oregon with such a high Medicaid population, but for behavioral health, a significant number of individuals in behavioral health, particularly more intense treatment options, do not have private insurance, and therefore getting a reimbursement rate of 70% is not sustainable in order to expand, which I think is one of the real challenges Oregon has in our insufficient provider network is intensive outpatient. Just, you can't get enough dollars to really sustain that. I don't think it totally gets there when you're a federally qualified health center, but the math is fundamentally different because you have to, there are governance requirements in a federally qualified health center, but there's also population requirements. And it is acknowledging that your payer mix is very, very, very high Medicaid, and therefore you can't balance. And so the reimbursement rate tries to acknowledge that you're there in the service of the public. This is not a for-profit entity, and therefore we bump the reimbursement rate up, which is why I keep having conversations about, is that a fit to run through a federally qualified health center, because it is closer to cost. It's not at cost, but I think it's a lot closer to cost. And so I'm excited to look at that, but I also have serious fear over the next, I don't know how long, when we'll actually know what the final, whatever the heck the feds are gonna do. So there's a little bit of on hold, but as things become clearer, I'm really interested in what's the right fit. But, I think the sustainability part is obviously incredibly important, but I'm excited to hear that this is something the board is thinking around as well.
A very strong board priority, and I think this is a great time for us to have conversations so that when things are less uncertain, we will already have done the work of making sure that we are on the same page so that we can work collaboratively to accomplish this, because I was like, yeah, behavioral health, but also the challenge for us is to ensure that all of the work that we do maintains our compliance. And so that can be a little bit tricky, but with time and patience, I think we can figure it all out.
Commissioner Moyer, I have a response to one of your other questions around, for DCHS, around IDD. We did some asking around, and I know that that client or the family has an appointment at our Mid-County Dental, our dental community health worker team, scheduled it right, followed up with them. And the other additional nuance there is that they're part of something called the Exceptional Needs Program, so there's some qualifiers as well.
Thank you. I don't have questions, but I wanted to just piggyback a little bit on what Commissioner Moyer was talking about and your comments around collaboration. I'm really, as a new person, hopeful to learn from you all how and where we can really find those opportunities. I can tell you've been listening to our other sessions, so you've probably heard me say, like, I just think when somebody's touching the county, we should find ways to bring all of the county services around them, and that includes in the health clinics. And I think we've got a lot of work to do to figure out how to break down those silos at the patient, the client level, so that they're really getting that full breadth of service. So I really look forward to those continued conversations with you all. And I'll look to Rachel because this may not be the right place, so you can tell me to stop. But the one thing I wanted to just flag is some of the concept that I think feeds into what Commissioner Moyer's been talking about is I've been looking at opportunities to explore how can we become a billing hub for some other programs. And I think Portland Street Response is an example for me where they're not currently billing, and how could we set something like that up? I would say I think there's additional further work we could do because with restrained local resources around general fund, our decrease, the fact that we don't get the allocation out of SHS to serve the population need that we have. What are the opportunities to really leverage those dollars? And I don't know, but I'd like us to talk about that in the coming year and just see if there's a there. And then lastly, because it's my district, I want to name that you talked about the Walnut Park redevelopment in your appendices. And I really want to look for opportunities to talk more with you all and work on what comes next there, because it's really important to the community that we do some redevelopment and seek opportunities for wealth creation but maintain the health clinic. And what does that look like? So a lot in there to unpack, I think. So hopefully I'll get to be spending some more time with you all in the coming months.
Super. We'd love to have you come to a meeting, and all of you are welcome, of course, to come to a meeting and talk to the whole board about the things that are important to you. And I think that's a great way to start a stronger collaborative process.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your questions and comments. We really appreciate knowing that we are already in alignment in so many ways.
You have any questions?
Yeah. Okay. And this may not be a question to be answered here. Thank you for the presentation. It's, especially like the by the number slide, it's quite impressive, like the services provided. I'm wondering, I was looking through the program offers and also the slide deck, and most of the numbers are more on like sort of patient served or number of visits. And I'm wondering if you separately track sort of health outcomes. There's, like on slide 25, there's a reference to quality metrics, but I didn't really see anything. And when I was looking through the program offers, I didn't see that. Dental and pharmacy and a couple of the primary care and labs, I looked at it, and there's a couple of different measurements, but most of them aren't like people left healthier or something that, so I'm just wondering if you have like a vision of this is what, when somebody visits or receives services, what our ideal like health outcome for them would be, and whether we track that? I mean, I'm assuming you're making the county help.
Everybody's looking at each other. I love that.
Again, it's, I don't know if that's something separately you all think about, but
I think it's a great question. Thank you. Part of being in the community health center model means you're obligated to follow sort of the federal perspective on how you measure health. And so Honored mentioned we have a Uniform Data System report, UDS, where every health center in the country is actually held to report on certain quality standards. And every year they divide those into quartiles of sort of top performers and low performers. And we'd be more than happy to follow up with your office on where we compare at the federal level to everyone. And then certainly locally with the CCOs in the state of Oregon, Honored mentioned we operate as a patient-centered medical home. And so one of the reasons that's really important is that the care team is really designed around the local patient health needs. And while our program offers are not centered around, moving A1Cs for patients down 1 point each year, our health centers do have specific quality measures that they work with the CCOs on based on the local patient population, one of which is A1C. Our health services center, I need to double check the program offer, but they actually have a quality measure around how quickly someone can connect to care for antiretroviral treatment. Some of the other measures that we really look at include cancer screenings, childhood immunizations, and other sort of measures of both access to care and care outcomes. And if you're interested in understanding and looking at where we perform along those, we can certainly set that up with our medical director's office.
yeah, I'd love to see it because to me, it marries here's how many people we serve with like the value proposition. So whatever you have, I'd be interested in that. I mean, just so I know, like, for example, there's all sorts of information about or evidence that, if kids don't get dental care, they're less likely to go to school. I mean, there's just, so it's in addition to the visits, marrying the two. And again, more to be able to tell the story about the great work and the value add that you're providing.
Yeah, and the UDS report for me personally has always been a little bit challenging because I don't think that it's the best communicator of the work that we do and the successes that we have. But I would say that, once again, the board is all, we really believe in the social determinants of health and how if we're going to get better outcomes, we have to be addressing those in all the ways that we are able. And so I think, once again, if you come and you have a conversation with us, I think you'll see that that is always on our radar.
I'm assuming it is. It's just, I'd like to also be able to talk about it.
Yeah. The UDS report.
Yeah, I think we could absolutely provide a combination of what we do for our state metrics, and that is what you see as the quality metrics in there, along with the HRSA UDS data.
Yeah, and we have a very robust quality assurance and improvement team, and the quality committee is always in those numbers and always asking questions about outcomes and, when we have complaints, were they followed up on? We get nitty gritty and we also do big scale stuff.
Any other questions beside where to get a shirt? Okay. I just want to say thank you again. I mean, I think Adrian, I think back to something that you said like a few years ago now about why it is important for Multnomah County to be a part of a system that includes a federally qualified health center. And, I think about the crossover between the people that we serve, whether we're talking about DCHS or public health or behavioral health or corrections health or our school-based clinics or our FQHCs. Like having that one county approach, thinking about all the ways that we can leverage the work that's happening across the board has been incredible. And I think back to COVID and the way that we worked together, with public health and the clinics to really make sure that we were showing up for our populations in the way that we did. And I think back to some of the really incredible vaccination rates that we had, especially in communities of color, was a really great example of that. So I continue to look forward to that. especially when we're in a time of so much turmoil at the federal level and so much uncertainty about what that means for all of us, and especially on the people that we serve. So I appreciate that. I know we have a lot of work ahead of us as we look for, as we work with you on the board, you and the board to me on hiring a permanent executive director for the clinics and looking at all the work that we have to do together. So just appreciate you all being here today. Looking forward to the chance for this new board to visit the clinics and learn more about it. I do think that there are a lot of opportunities. I think there's some great opportunities with Walnut Park, as Commissioner Singleton was talking about. So lots of good conversations to come. So thank you all so much.
And we'll all make sure you all have a t-shirt.
I prefer sleeveless if you.
There's a pair of scissors somewhere.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's budget work session.
I have amendments.
And it does not. Sorry, I forgot about amendments. Let's go ahead and lay them out.
So I am sharing the first draft of the employment programs amendment. It includes some proposed reductions in various programs and offices. Does not quite get us to the full funding, but I wanted to get this in front of people so that we could continue to talk about how to offset the cost of refunding the employment programs out of Homeless Services Department.
Thank you.
Just to note that.
Sorry, and Commissioner Brim Edwards is co-sponsoring this one with me.
All right. Okay. Commissioner Moore.
Yes, I have an amendment that would fund a targeted pilot project to extend long-term care to houseless individuals who experience SPMI, which I presented my pilot. I have a pared down version using county funds. I also identified the program offer 10020 RAC. So we'll have to work through some conflicts. And I also identified some savings in the by position reduction in the Office of Sustainability. So things to discuss.
Yep.
But I will pass that on.
That's where the fun starts, guys.
There's only so many places.
There you go. All right, any other amendments for this afternoon? No. Okay, now, sorry to be premature, but now we are ready to conclude today's budget work session. There being no further business, we are adjourned.